So it is my pleasure to open this session. On behalf of our disaster society, the French Medical Disaster Society. And we have I welcome our people, and we have four topics today. The first one will be about disaster medicine, with the concept and with telecommunications and with the military experience. You will see that we are very fond of military experience. It was the beginning of the disaster society, in fact. After this, we will have a focus on CBRN risks. You know that they are always over our head, even if we don't know when it will happen. And we will have Professor Renaudot to speak about decontamination in Europe, and some topics about innovations, and also a special European modular. And after this, we will have a focus on European projects. And I thank you, Sabina from Italy, Philippe from Brussels, and all our friends. We spend a lot of time working together, sharing some information during the pandemic, and we were part of a lot of European projects, and it's very rich, and we get a very good background about this. So I thank you them very much to be with us and to be part of the Disaster Society. And I hope to get some very good articles for our magazine, because as you know, we have a magazine. It is the only one in French about disaster medicine, and we are very open to get articles. And the last topic will be about crowd movements. It's up to date, of course. We have a lot of events, strikes, violence, everything, you know. So it's very important to treat these topics, and we have specialists, and I'm sure that this session will be so interesting, you know. And we are very open to your questions, so we are trying to speak both French and English. If I may, who is only English speaking in the room? Just, okay. All other people are both a little bit wrong. So we will do our best to be French and English, okay? Even if our English is not a native one. Okay. May I introduce Dr. Jean-Marc Philippe. He's the moderator of the first part of this session. And thank you very much, Jean-Marc. Jean-Marc is coming from the Ministry of Health. He has a lot of responsibilities, and we appreciate his help and his interest in the disaster society medicine.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Jean-Marc Philippe, medical advisor at the Directorate General for Health and to the Secretary General for Defense and National Security. It's a great pleasure to be with you today. I have the honor of moderating this disaster medicine session dedicated to make a focus of disaster medicine in France. The creation of disaster medicine in France merged with the concept of military medicine. The FSMC was founded 40 years ago and include professionals from Ministry of Defense, Interior, and Health. What makes France special is that it brings together all these partners in the field of pre-hospital emergency and care chain. Interoperability depends on reliable communication. A new system, the radio network of the future, will guarantee this and will be presented. Terrorist events have led to development of damage control techniques, thanks in particular to military experience, and to the accelerations of hospital admission of victims, thanks to the techniques of internal security forces, which will be described in this session. The question will be grouped together at the end of the three presentations. The first presentations aims the evolution of the French concept of disaster medicine. I have the pleasure of welcoming Dr. Catherine Bertrand, President of the French Society of Disaster Medicine. Catherine, you have 15 minutes.
Thank you very much, Jean-Marc, for these kind words. So I am introducing the subject, and I will describe you the disaster medicine from 1983. It was created, the society was created in 1983, and I will tell you how we have to be involved now with new events. May I have... Ça passait tout à l'heure, ça passait bien?
C'est bizarre, ça s'est pas allumé.
Don't worry, we have the specialist of communication here. So don't worry, okay? It's the future is here.
The future is here.
Yeah. So the disaster medicine, is linked with the emergency medicine. And in France, in 1970, we decided, an anesthesiologist decided to go to the site. And we had the image of military people going to the site and taking care of victims and trying to evacuate them after this, So it was a concept going to the site. And it was a will from our population, from anesthesiologists. And that was the aim of the pre-hospital emergency medicine in France, okay? So we had people in our department. I was working in Créteil, and we had our boss, Professor Huguenard, was before a military doctor, So we had been educated like military people. Guess what we had to to do, and here you see Professor Huguenard and Dr. Laborit, and they were the founders of this disaster medicine concept. And of course, on the right side of the slide, you have Dr. Noto. Dr. Noto was the chief of the fire brigade in Paris, and Dr. Julien, who was also the chief of the fire brigade of Paris. And I have the honor to be the new president. All these people were presidents before me. I must emphasize that Dr. Noto created what we all well know, that's the medical chain, the pre-hospital medical chain. Because before this, it was a red plan. And the red plan, you have a picture on the slide, and you see there is one chief, the commandant, with a yellow vest, and after you have two branches, one branch to rescue people, and the other one to give medical care. And medical care, it's first on the site, and it is mostly first aid. And after, you have a safer place, and you can do triage, and you have the advanced medical post. And after this, we can evacuate people to the right hospitals thanks to the organization of our dispatch center, which is called SAMU. First of all, we sent some people from the SAMU to Algeria, the earthquake of El Hasnam. It was a very big one, and at that time, we did not know much about disaster medicine. So our people went there with assistance publique pyjama and with material in a suitcase and with no logistic means. And when they came back, we did a RETEX, and we realized that, we had a lot to learn. And we decided to create the first diploma. And the first diploma was shared with the army, with the medical part of the army. And it was the first diploma, and this diploma became, more than 10 years after, a national diploma, which is nowadays taught by 12 universities. And it is the only way to have some knowledge about this specialty. So when they went back from El Hasnam, we knew that we had to learn a lot, to learn about pathologies, to learn about logistic means, and we were ready to go abroad and to be part of international missions. And our people from SAMU went for the first 15 days, so the acute period. They went to El Hasnam, Liberia, Salvador, Pakistan, Bhopal, a lot of international missions. And of course, we did not have all these events in France. So we learned a lot, and it was part of our courses and our university degrees to have the feedback of all these missions. So, especially in our university, we have been creating a lot of courses and university degrees, and we prepare people, our teams, to go abroad and to be part of a lot of missions. And I would like to introduce, of course, you know him, Dr. Xavier Emmanueli. Dr. Xavier Emmanueli and also Georges Boussignac, we were students together, and we got our diploma of anesthesiology. And Dr. Xavier Emmanueli was in our emergency department, and he was a general practitioner before. And he realized that to go abroad, he had to know how to take care of victims, you know, and to be an anesthesiologist. And after this, he had the idea to found Médecins Sans Frontières, and he was one of the co-founders of Médecins Sans Frontières. And for the first missions from the SAMU, we went abroad with the umbrella of Médecins Sans Frontières. And after this, Xavier Emmanueli had a mandate to be the secrétaire d'État à l'action humanitaire d'urgence. And after this, he created the social SAMU and the international social SAMU. Why SAMU? Because, you know, it was the same concept to go on the site and to go out of the hospital, out of health centers to take care of people where they are. During his mandate, he gave to Professor Kroc, you have the picture of Professor Kroc, he gave him the opportunity to create the psychological unit, which is now well installed in France. And it's the aim of this psychological unit is devoted to disaster medicine, not daily problems. And at the bottom of the slide, you have, of course, our friend Georges Boussignac. We all know. He's an inventor, and we know the CPAP, and we know all what he invented for daily medicine and emergency medicine and disaster medicine. Sorry. Wait. We have a lot of courses and university degrees in France, but we also organize some university degrees abroad. For example, you have a picture. We did this in Cameroon, and we have to be very humble because in Cameroon we were coming and teaching about the disaster we knew, but we did not know about emanation of gas from the lake Nyos, or for invasion of sauterelles. I don't know the English word, you know. So we always share information and experience, you know, and it is so rich. I love this. We have a lot of degrees and courses in France, and Jean-Marc is the chief of all this program. And we have about CBRN, damage control, psychological course, biological problems, everything. And recently, Professor Pitti asked the Disaster Society to go to Ukraine. And we went to Ukraine last June to teach and to share knowledge about chemical risks with an anesthesiologist very close to the front, as we say. And it was very, very interesting because, you know, when you go abroad and people are very motivated to learn about a disaster fact or disaster risk, it's, we gain time because they are very motivated, and within few days we can learn from each other, but we can transmit information and experience and knowledge, and it's also very nice for teachers. Well, as Patrick Lagadec says, you have to be prepared to be surprised, always. I like this very much. But this event in New York was a shock. And at the same time in France, we were learning about terrorism attacks. And the specialty of France is to work on the pre-hospital field with firefighters, with police, with EMS, medical teams. But we had to add a special unit from police forces or even army. And if I give you a list, especially in 2015, we had a lot of bad events, and we have to work now with the BRIPP, with the GIGN, with RED. And fortunately, we have some colleagues working inside these units, so it gives us a good knowledge about how to behave in such a situation. And now we have to train our people another way. These events in New York made a change of paradigm. And now we know that we have some rescue principles to change facing the threat. The doctrine, the mass killing doctrine, meeting a dual objective, safety and rescue. And of course, safety primes over rescue. So we have to teach our teams. Of course, there is a red zone, and in the red zone, we are not welcome, of course. Okay? And after an orange one and the green one, we are medical teams in the green one. But all these areas are dynamic. And as soon as the red zone is decreasing, you know, we have possibilities to extract victims and to treat them. Of course, the doctrine is threat suppression, hemorrhage control, And we had a huge program about damage control, damage resuscitation, and damage surgery. Rapid extraction to safety, assessment by medical providers, and transport to definitive care. All this to save the maximum of people. So we had in our training to add communication information for our people, because without communication we are just nothing, and security advices, because, you know, a dead doctor does not help. And after, we had to train them to take care of victims. And New York made a change of paradigm. That's why in France we were very sophisticated doctor, we may say this, in the pre-hospital field. And now we have to transport this disaster concept inside hospitals. Because, you know, with, for example, the Bataclan, the victims, they cannot be stable, they cannot be at the site for a long time. And you remember American people were teasing us because they said that we were play and stay on the site. We don't want to do scoop and run. We want to be in between and to give the right care. But now hospitals have to be ready immediately. So we have to train and to teach hospitals to do exactly what we do in the pre-hospital field. And a new function has been created. It's a crisis medical director inside the hospital. And he has the same task as the director of emergency rescue on the field, but he does this for the hospital. And it's very useful. It has been in use for the Bataclan event, and now, you know, it's really on use. Of course, if we face now the new events coming, we don't know what, but we all have the same problems of human resources. But we must say that in case of something unexpected, we can count on professional health people, and as we did for the pandemic situation. And we must just admire what they did at that time. Of course, we have to keep on training people, and we try to be as much as realistic as possible. For example, my friend from the east part of France told me, we do not use anymore mannequins, because mannequins, you know, it's easy for the medical team. They see, oh, he's dead. So now it's people, and you have to check if it is dead or not. And we have a lot of blood also. And we work with the special unit from police to be as much as realistic as possible. So it will be the end of my talk. I have a lot of books to recommend. And oops. Communication advisor. It's okay. And if you go to the site of the Disaster Society, you will see a lot of articles, publications that we provide, and especially a small book called Vademecum, which is translated into English, into Spanish, and into Portuguese so far. And you have everything you must know about everything in the disaster field. The next step, and we will organize a session in May, it's the citizen and the bystander, of course. We have to train anyone to behave in such a situation. And we have a lot to do, and we are very open in our society to do this. So we must not forget that 2024 will be marked by the Olympic Games in Paris. Of course, it is an event of global importance for which we must all be ready. Rescuers, caregivers, as well as also security forces, to anticipate all threats and all types of risk, ranging from spontaneous crowd movements, and we will speak about this later on, to attacks, using all types of weapons, from conventional to the most complex. And maybe you could be invited the 6th of February, because the Ministry of Health organizes a huge webinar about Orsan Hamavi, and it is very, very important to share this information. And on the 8th of February, the SFMC organizes a session about climatic risk, and it's also part of our organization, because I forgot to tell you that in our society we have people from the Army, we have people from the Ministry of Interior, we have people of the Ministry of Health, and that is the strength of this society, to share all experience of all these corps. As a conclusion, I will provide you with a small video. Top. Sound is coming.
Thank you very much, Catherine, for your presentation and this beautiful video. We continue with, I have the pleasure to welcoming Madame Claire Reynal, French radio
Network Project Manager Radio to the Future.
Yes.
You have 15 minutes.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, Catherine, for the presentation, because it was a very good link towards what I'm going to talk to. So this morning I will be speaking of the RRF, Réseau Radio du Futur. So we'll be talking about networks. And the question is, what did we learn from the previous events that Catherine was talking about? What did we learn from terrorist attack, from catastrophe? And the first question is, how do we guarantee the continuity of operations on the ground for the public safety users? How do we guarantee the continuity of communication? And the solution used these days that you know, narrowband networks such as INPT, Ruby, Antares, that you are all using. Are they sufficient enough? Are they resilient enough for supporting mission-critical communications? And considering all the issues we are facing with those narrowband networks, I'm speaking of lack of interoperability. I'm speaking of problem of system maintenance. I'm speaking of obsolete devices. Well, the French government decided to award in October 2022 the RRF contract, so the Réseau Radio du Futur contract. And what is RRF? RRF is a nationwide broadband network dedicated to public safety users, firefighters, emergency services, security services, police, and so on. And so for that, also, a specific legislation was voted in January, as you can see, January 2023, giving RRF subscribers prioritized access to the coverage of our two main mobile network operators in France, Bouygues Telecom and Orange. And also, it's written in that legislation that RRF subscribers have the right to roam nationally on the 4 French mobile operator coverage. And in March 2023, the agency in charge of operating the RF network is created, and this agency is called the ACMOS. So where are we at? Right now we are at the building phase of building the network, meaning we are building our core network and connected it to the coverage of all the MNOs in France. We are at the beginning of providing public safety users with 4G and 5G devices. We are providing SIM cards, but also we are building mission-critical application called Sirius. So all the actors among public safety can speak, exchange, and work when there is a disaster. A key aspect, the main role of the ACMOS is to ensure high-speed communication anywhere and in all circumstances for security and rescue forces. So first, what we are building is a robust, secure, and sovereign architecture. So the Réseau Radio du Futur has its own core network and is hosted in the secure data centers of the Ministry of the Interior to guarantee sovereign exploitation of its subscribers' communication and associated data. We also are building a network operating center to maintain the state of this entire network. We also build a security operation center in order to ensure the level of the security. Everything is maintained and supervised 24 hours a day during all year. But this is not the only thing we provide in terms of resiliency. We also provide a full extended coverage, meaning that our core network, which is based in the data centers of the French Ministry of Interior, are connected to all those mobile network operation centers, meaning that public safety users can have access to their applications through Orange, Bouygues, SFR, also Wi-Fi, also overseas network, and also through national strategic operators, like operators deployed for airport, for railway station, for nuclear power plants, things like that. So we can give access to public safety users anywhere under all those mobile network operator coverage. In our contract, we have a special agreement with Orange and Bouygues Telecom, meaning that they guarantee an average availability rate, and also they guarantee quality of services, priority and preemption over the network. So our public safety users can exchange videos, can exchange pictures, can talk, and have always a priority access, meaning when there is a congestion, they can still have access to their application system. Okay, not only that, what happens if we do not have anymore the MNO coverage? Well, in our program, we provide with deployables. What are deployables? I'm talking about rapid response vehicles that you can see on the up side of the picture. And this rapid response vehicle provides coverage and is backhauled using LEO satellite. We also provide vehicular relays. And to focus on that, for example, for rapid response vehicles, they are deployed in response to bad weather or any kind of circumstances impacting communication networks. And rapid response vehicles make it possible to recreate a 4G coverage in case of failure. So you can see, like, public safety users can still communicate when there is a damage over MNO's network. We also provide deployable base stations, and they are installed by operators such as Orange or Bouygues Telecom in anticipation of large-scale events, such as concert or organization, any kind of event. We also provide vehicle relays, and those vehicles are bought by first responders, like SAMU or firefighters can buy these vehicles and create a 4G coverage instantly, really rapidly. And everything is backhauled using satellite communication. We also provide a solution called direct mode, like the direct mode used for Antares. And the direct mode of the RF allows the link from station to station without going through the networks of the MNOs. And now I will go through some exploratory elements that are not inside our project right now, but some elements that we are focusing on because we are talking every day to public safety users, and they work with us in our agency. So we really want to improve our network and make it the best use for public safety users. So we've been talking about how putting an entire network inside a backpack, a suitcase, just in case if you need to expand a radio network to maintain the communication between public safety users. And we are talking about apps, high-altitude platform station. You can put an entire system of communication on the apps and provide a long-term coverage and probably several weeks. We're talking about also pressurized tethered balloon, and the autonomy is 20 days. Well, and especially this morning, we have a meeting for how do we connect drone to our network. So some communities come to us and say, okay, I have drone, I need the drone for supervising some and taking pictures and seeing video in real time. How do I do that? So we have some conversation, and especially right now, how to connect a drone to our core network so public safety users can use it for their missions. And the last topic that is very also interesting is regarding how can we improve medical services using 5G network? And this use case is very interesting, and I can tell you where you can find it on internet, but you have a blog dedicated to telemedicine and how a doctor can work remotely. And this use case is very interesting. It is developed by Samsung, and it's a medical bus, and it is the use case is for rural public facility, but you can recreate an hospital inside a bus and having some medical doctors remotely giving the first care inside that medical bus. So yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoy.
Thank you very much, Claire. As I said before, the question will be grouped at the end of these topics. I have the pleasure to welcome le médecin principal, Simon-Pierre Costegui, the Paris Fire Brigades.
Yes.
Yes, you have 15 minutes.
Hello, thank you for the invitation to talk about the latest contributions of military experience to civilian disaster medicine. So I have no conflict of interest with this topic. So as you know, our job in the French military service is to treat the preventable deaths on the battlefield. And the leading cause of preventable death is hemorrhage, as well known since 10 years, with the US military experience in the Middle East. The second lesson of the US military experience in Middle East is the recent reduction on US military mortality is a combination of three factors: pre-hospital transfusion, with a quarter of soldiers saved with this new capacity, and the combination of pre-hospital transfusion with evacuation within 1 hour, it's the famous golden hour, and the use of tourniquets as soon as possible, the utilization in the battlefield by soldiers. We also know, with the civilian experience in US trauma centers, and pre-hospital transfusion helps to reduce mortality. And if the transfusion is initiated in the trauma center, every minute that transfusion is delayed increases the mortality for trauma patients. We are talking to blood, but what is blood? Blood is a combination of three factors: red blood cells, platelets, and plasma. And these three components have an action on oxygen depth, endotheliopathy, and coagulopathy, was the three components of hemorrhagic blood failure, who is the hemorrhagic blood failure, the basis of hemorrhagic shock, who kill soldiers at war. So in reaction, French Armed Forces have deployed a blood forward program since the point of injury to the Role 4, the military hospital in France. And I will present to you the different products that we deploy on overseas operations. First of all, it's low-titer whole blood. It's a blood product produced by the French Military Blood Institute in Percy, Percy Hospital, near from here at Clamart. It's for use in traumatology. It was recently approved by the civilian French health authorities. It's at today a practice unique in France. And it's also deployed for use in overseas operation on ground and in the air, as well as in military trauma centers in France, like Percy Teaching Hospital or Sainte-Anne Teaching Hospital in Toulon, in the southeast of France. The whole blood is stored in a dedicated golden hour blocks, and it respects a strictly cold chain, and its use is validated in extreme conditions like Saharan desert or cold conditions like in the East Europe. The second choice is French lyophilised plasma. It's an old product used in World War II and recently rediscovered. The only one producer in the world is the French Military Blood Institute of Clamart, and its use was recently recommended by the French Scientific Medical Societies in French pre-hospital civilian setting by the SMUR in civilian trauma management. This product is a stable blood product, even in extreme environments. Its airdrop supply was validated by French Air Force. And its diffusion is very large since 2017. Its use permits an early plasma transfusion and an early transfusion ratio in French military trauma centers like Percy or Sainte-Anne. The third choice is a body transfusion. It's a warm, fresh blood transfusion between comrades on the battlefield. It's a dedicated procedure for French Special Operations Forces like Navy Commando. And it was an interest in military operation with a light logistical footprint, like high-value target neutralization operation. But it needs a strict selection of donors before the deployment. So it's for the moment reserved to special operation forces. The body transfusion is permitted by an innovating and dedicated kit created by the French Military Blood Institute. One kit permits to have one blood bag, and the kit abuts to transfusion within 1 hour for a trained medical team. And there was no impact on military performance for commando blood donors. This is the dedicated bag. So the French Special Operation Forces experience in pre-hospital transfusion is very robust. They put blood as soon as possible of the point of injury because the blood is in the backpack. Blood is in the backpack even in Special Operation Forces airborne operation, and the goal is to save the life of the operators engaged in end-to-end combat at the ground. This is a backpack of a special operation physician with different components, and as you know, he has plio, he has whole blood. So this experience, we try to spread through the civilian healthcare system because we have a common interest in pre-hospital transfusion in a civilian setting. Military medical teams interact with our civilian counterpart in France Paris Fire Brigade, Marseille Fire Battalion, the CNR rescue teams, the GIGN, the counter-terrorism unit of the gendarmerie, and also military trauma centers, Paris and Toulon, who are engaged in the severe trauma management. So there is a very big interest for precipitated transfusion. Is it a need for disaster medicine? What is the lessons from Paris terror attacks? The lesson is we have to improve transfusion procedures in mass casualty setting, because when you see the time from the admission, from the hospital admission to the first transfusion, you can see the first transfusion begin at 1 hour after the admission, after the hospital admission, so 2 hours after the injury. So there is a real key area for innovation and research in disaster medicine and in emergency medicine to develop pre-hospital transfusion. So, to conclude, blood products save lives. It's a process to be developed on a daily basis in French emergency medicine, and they will benefit for disaster medicine. It's a logistical challenge rather than a medical challenge, because our military comrades and US comrades are experimented in this practice. But don't forget the basics in severe trauma management. First of all, we have to stop bleeding, use acid tranexamic, and go to the trauma center, not to the local hospital. And in this dynamic, we can add pre-hospital transfusion. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Simon Pierre, pour cette présentation. We are at the time of the questions. Catherine, if you want to go with us, have you some questions about these three very interesting presentations? Les questions peuvent être posées en français aussi, hein, donc ne vous sentez pas non plus gêné par... Non, pas de... No questions? Ah.
Thank you for this very interesting presentation. Maybe I can ask the question in French for the commandant of brigade of fire department. Ok. Sur les produits de transfusion sanguine, est-ce que c'est quelque chose qui va être développé au niveau des SMUR dans toute la France ou pas encore? J'ai cru comprendre que c'était uniquement au niveau des sapeurs-pompiers de Paris, du bataillon des marins-pompiers de Marseille et des unités d'élite pour l'instant.
Alors pour le moment, comme je disais, la barrière elle est plutôt réglementaire, puisque la réglementation de la gestion des produits sanguins elle a à peu près 15 ans, donc elle n'est absolument pas adaptée à la pratique médicale actuelle. Pour le moment, les SMUR en tant que tels auraient le droit d'avoir des produits sanguins. Certains l'utilisent. Il y a eu une étude récente qui a été publiée l'an dernier dans Transfusion, qui est le journal référence en transfusion, où on voit qu'à peu près il y a 3/4 des SMUR en France qui peuvent avoir des produits sanguins labiles. La difficulté, c'est que les produits sanguins labiles, ils leur sont fournis par l'UFS, qui est l'opérateur français, et que du coup, il faut des conventions, il faut une organisation entre l'UFS et le centre hospitalier. Bon, là, on est déjà dans la complication un peu franco-française. Au niveau militaire, nous, on a un opérateur unique qui est le centre de transfusion sanguine des armées, qui nous permet d'avoir plus facilement des produits sanguins. Donc effectivement, là, il y a eu une facilité accordée pour la BSPP, le BMPM et les unités telles que le GIGN ou la sécurité civile. Là, pour le moment, on en est encore à la phase où on essaie d'adapter la stricte réglementation à l'exercice particulier de la médecine préhospitalière, puisque les produits sanguins labiles, ils sont quand même contraints en termes de respect de la chaîne du froid. Et donc, l'effort actuel, il mène sur arriver à avoir des produits sanguins labiles conservés dans de bonnes conditions et un strict respect des températures. Alors, je pense que ça va bientôt arriver. Là, pour moi, notre difficulté, c'est d'arriver à trouver un contenant Alors, en opération extérieure, on a cette box-là qui permet d'avoir 48 heures de température conservée. La difficulté pour la mettre en métropole, c'est qu'en fait, en opération extérieure, c'est des boîtes qu'on va mettre après au frigo. Il va y avoir peu de turnover, puisqu'au final, c'est du sang qui vient sur le théâtre, qui y reste, et qu'après on réexpédie en France. En France, on a quand même un produit sanguin qui est rare, qu'on va essayer d'éviter de gaspiller. Et donc, il faut arriver à trouver cet juste écart qui est purement logistique entre une utilisation préhospitalière et après un reversement à un établissement transfusionnel. Donc c'est vraiment une problématique plus logistique, mais on va y arriver. Hein.
Oui, d'autant qu'il y a d'autres produits médicaux qui sont stockés au frais dans les SMUR. Donc,
oui, tout à fait. Ouais. Mais en fait, la difficulté, c'est que là, il y a vraiment, c'est du cadre législatif que le respect c'est-à-dire qu'effectivement, il y a des médicaments d'anesthésie qui doivent rester au frais. Si ça chauffe un petit peu, médicalement, on sait qu'il n'y a pas de risque, et réglementairement, il n'y a pas de risque. Le sang, s'il chauffe un petit peu, bah là, on se fait taper sur les doigts par les pharmaciens.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Have you some questions? Any questions? Yes. Within the...
Une question courte. Merci pour vous quatre. Une petite question que je voulais poser à Madame la docteure. C'est au sujet de la formation. Alors, comment faites la différence entre la médecine des catastrophes et la médecine humanitaire? Parce qu'à Saint-Antoine aussi, il y avait un DU de médecine humanitaire. Est-ce que c'est vraiment différent des médecines de catastrophes? Ça, c'est la première question. Alors, la deuxième question que je voulais vous poser, Madame la docteure, c'était pour savoir, parce que là, vous avez parlé du ministre Xavier Emmanuel. Mais dans la médecine humanitaire, en France, parce qu'il y a aussi des gens qui viennent de l'enquête. Nous connaissons Bernard Kouchner aussi. Il était le leader. Alors, comment vous expliquez ça, madame?
I will answer the second question first, because of course, you know, in our department we had people from, we had colleagues joining the Médecins Sans Frontières and colleagues joining Médecins du Monde with Bernard Kouchner. So we share everything. First question, the question was the difference between disaster medicine in our concept and when we send teams abroad on behalf of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We act in the first 15 days only. And after this, we get back our teams. Okay? And for the humanitarian topics, you know, and tasks, they stay for a longer time, you know. So it's not exactly the same organization. We just act in the first 15 days, if we are allowed to go abroad and to go to help this country, of course, you know, we have to be invited, in fact. And for the humanitarian organization, you know, it's not exactly the same thing, you know. It's worldwide, it's well organized in advance, and it's a special task that we are not able to do. So it's quite different, It's complementary, of course. And when we leave the country, we have to deal with all the humanitarian, I don't know how to pronounce it in English, you know, organizations, you know. And of course, we have a special university degree in Créteil, and we teach and we train our teams to be able to work with these organizations on the side abroad. And we have the opportunity to work with Bioforce. Bioforce was an emanation of Mr. Mérieux, and they know everything about abroad and sending logistics and so on. And we spend time with them, you know, to understand how they work in order to be able to do our task properly. Okay?
Thank you, Catherine. We have just time for a last question.
Yes, thank you. It's a question to Mrs. Renal about the link with the 112 network in Europe. And I understand that the Radio du Futur is really about the sovereignty, so it's really national. But what are the efforts that you are making with respect to interoperability at European level in case of European crisis, for example, and the link with 112?
112, okay, emergency services, yes. Well, there is a law in France where the MNOs, so the mobile network operators, they have to provide services through 112 phone calls. And so if one of the public safety users has to call 112, it is directly linked through the MNOs that we give access. So Orange and Bouygues Telecom will be in charge of directing the call towards 112. But inside our program, we are not responsible of modernizing 112. I know it is made by another part of the ministry. But right now, if one of our public safety user wants to achieve a call, a 112 call, it is directly routed via Orange or Bouygues Telecom.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We stop now these topics, and now it's Sébastien.
Thank you. Thank you, Jean-Marc. Merci à tous pour cette première session. On va enchaîner avec la deuxième. On fera une pause entre la deuxième et le groupe de troisième et quatrième session. Thank you for those presentations. Please, the next orators, you can join us. So I'm Dr. Sébastien Baume. I'm French emergency doctor, former military doctor, and now in a fire department in Bouches-du-Rhône, south of France. And I'm also the medical advisor for the Defense and Security Zone south in France, and responsible for the pedagogic commission of the French Society of Disaster Medicine. So I'm very happy to welcome our experts for this CBRN session. And first of all, let me introduce you to Professor Claude Renaudot, who was a general pharmacist in the French Health Military Service, and he was the advisor for CBRN, chemical threats, for the head of the French military health service. And today he will talk us about the different approaches about decontamination in Europe. So thank you, mon général.
Hello, I am sorry I don't speak English, so I shall speak French. Donc, je vais vous traiter les comparaisons de stratégies de décontamination en Europe. Donc, la menace existe. Catherine vous en a parlé. Cette menace, elle peut être militaire. Actuellement, nous avons la guerre en Europe, le conflit russo-ukrainien. Et puis, nous avons toujours cette menace terroriste avec les mouvements djihadistes. Et à côté de cette menace, il existe des risques qui sont des risques technologiques, conduisant les uns et les autres à de nombreuses victimes et à des impliqués. Donc, face à cette menace, nous avons deux stratégies, soit un prépositionnement des moyens de décontamination lorsqu'il s'agit de manifestations organisées, telles celles des Jeux Olympiques cet été, mais également les 80e anniversaire du débarquement en Normandie. Et on peut aussi avoir des attentats multisites, comme ce fut le cas à Tokyo. Il faut quand même savoir que nos références actuellement sont toujours Tokyo et AZF dans ce domaine, des attentats multisites de façon à déstabiliser l'organisation des secours. Et dans ce cas-là, il faut être capable de déployer des moyens d'intervention et donc des moyens de décontamination et donc organiser des PRV, des points de regroupement des victimes, à différents endroits. Et une nouveauté dans laquelle aussi on s'engage, c'est ces blessés aussi à la fois chimiques, mais blessés par arme blanche ou arme à feu, qui peuvent devenir des urgences absolues et qui devront pouvoir arriver à l'hôpital et passer au bloc opératoire avant de subir une décontamination complète, concept qui était complètement écarté il y a quelques années. Les pays de l'Union européenne, eh bien, ils ont cette problématique commune, mais avec des spécificités selon chaque pays, ces spécificités portant sur les équipements, sur la doctrine d'emploi, et aussi le dénominateur commun, c'est que ce sont toujours des adaptations qui sont faites suite aux exercices, donc au RETEX, et un point aussi commun qu'il faut toujours avoir présent à l'esprit, c'est qu'on doit être capable de maîtriser le port des équipements de protection et savoir utiliser les moyens de décontamination. Donc je vais traiter mon sujet en 3 axes. Rappel des mesures institutionnelles en France, les moyens qui sont disponibles en France et puis les stratégies de décontamination dans les autres pays. Le rappel des mesures institutionnelles en France, eh bien, il repose sur 2 circulaires. La circulaire numéro 800 pour les risques radiologiques et nucléaires et la circulaire numéro 700 pour le risque chimique. Ces 2 circulaires ont été élaborées par le secrétariat général de la Défense et de la Sécurité nationale, qui est un organisme qui est placé directement sous l'égide du Premier ministre. L'objectif de ces circulaires, c'est justement de pouvoir sauver et préserver des vies humaines et aussi d'avoir une application interministérielle qui concerne aussi bien le ministère de l'Intérieur avec tous les acteurs de secours, c'est-à-dire les sapeurs-pompiers, qu'ils soient de la brigade, du bataillon ou des départements, et les forces de police et les forces de gendarmerie nationale, mais également tous les organismes de santé, c'est-à-dire tous les établissements hospitaliers, qu'ils soient publics ou privés, et bien sûr, les armées sont partie prenante avec leurs hôpitaux. C'est une méthodologie unifiée dont ce schéma, vous devez tous l'avoir en tête, ce fameux schéma de la pelle à tarte, avec un paramètre qui est essentiel, qui est le sens du vent et la vitesse du vent. Là, ce schéma, il correspond, si vous voulez, à un vent, à une brise, un vent de 4 km/h, à peu près 3,6 km/h, c'est-à-dire une vitesse supérieure à 1 mètre par seconde, où vous voyez qu'on a ces zones qui sont délimitées, et c'est dans la zone contrôlée que sera installé le PRV, et les modules de décontamination tels que vous les verrez tout à l'heure sont justement à la frontière entre la zone contrôlée et la zone de soins. La prise en charge des victimes sur le terrain, bien justement, dans la zone d'exclusion, ce sont les équipes de sapeurs-pompiers qui interviennent de façon à extraire le plus rapidement possible les victimes et les regrouper au point de regroupement des victimes. Là, une décontamination d'urgence sera pratiquée. Cette décontamination d'urgence consiste à enlever la première couche de vêtements. Et en enlevant la première couche de vêtements, vous éliminez déjà de 80 à 90% des toxiques. Et puis d'utiliser des moyens de décontamination type le dispositif RSDL ou alors des solutions d'EPCOL, soit pour le risque nucléaire, d'EPCOL adapté, soit pour le risque chimique. Je vous parlerai ultérieurement des limites du gant poudreur. De réaliser aussi un traitement symptomatique. Une victime qui a cessé de respirer, on ne pourra plus faire grand-chose, ça ne servira à rien d'aller contaminer. Donc il faut peut-être commencer aussi par désencombrer les voies respiratoires, le mettre sous oxygène si besoin, d'administrer des antidotes si ceux-ci existent pour les toxiques en cause et s'ils sont disponibles, Et puis, encore une fois, prendre en compte les urgences absolues. Donc, dans la zone contrôlée, voilà comment celle-ci s'organisera. Nous avons un point de regroupement des impliqués, un point de regroupement des victimes valides et un point de regroupement des victimes invalides. Et vous voyez, les modules de décontamination sont à cheval sur la zone contrôlée et la zone de soutien dans laquelle, bien sûr, sont installés le ou les PMA. Voilà, si vous voulez, regrouper sur ce slide l'organisation générale des moyens. C'est une diapo que j'ai empruntée à mon ami le docteur Claude Fuyat, mais je trouve qu'elle est quand même assez explicite, puisque là, vous avez tous les acteurs du secours qui interviennent. La prise en charge à l'hôpital des victimes non régulées. Eh bien, ces afflux massifs de victimes, c'est ce qui s'est produit notamment à Tokyo en 1995, où l'hôpital Saint-Luc, c'est-à-dire l'hôpital qui était à proximité, s'est trouvé recevoir plus de 500 personnes qui se sont présentées spontanément. À Toulouse, quand il y a eu l'accident à ZF, quand les secours sont arrivés sur le site, eh bien, tous les valides étaient partis et s'étaient dirigés vers des structures de soins. Donc l'objectif, c'est au niveau de l'hôpital, préserver la structure hospitalière, préserver les personnels soignants et de mettre en route justement une décontamination d'urgence, laquelle est suffisante si on a affaire à un toxique volatile. Et la décontamination approfondie, bien sûr, s'impose si on a des toxiques persistants, mais ça nécessite d'avoir des moyens, ça nécessite aussi d'avoir du personnel formé et entraîné. Donc les moyens en France, les moyens préhospitaliers, ce sont des unités mobiles de décontamination de la sécurité civile. Il y en a 8 au niveau des formations militaires de la sécurité civile. Et puis, il y en a 62 répartis en France entre la brigade de sapeurs-pompiers de Paris, le bataillon de marins-pompiers de Marseille et les différents SDIS. Les moyens hospitaliers, eh bien, ce sont les unités mobiles de décontamination avec les 3 générations. La première génération, ça datait des années 2000, où des tentes à structure métallique, il s'agit d'une tente utiliste, avait été montée avec 2 lignes de personnes valides, ou une ligne de valides et une ligne d'invalides. Ce qui est important, c'est de pouvoir aussi donner l'information aux personnes qui vont être décontaminées pour savoir comment ça va se dérouler. Les unités mobiles de 2e génération, qui, elles, datent à peu près des années 2010, sont des berces de 20 pieds où on a regroupé, si vous voulez, dans la berce, tous les moyens techniques nécessaires à la décontamination. Et là, elles ont de 4 lignes valides ou 2 lignes valides et une ligne invalide. L'intérêt, vous voyez bien, vous le sentez bien, c'est d'avoir un montage rapide des dispositifs et de pouvoir augmenter le débit des personnes. Maintenant, nous avons des unités mobiles de 3e génération. Là, vous avez le dispositif Leusberger, où on voit bien que là, les tentes sont des tentes gonflables, rapidement montables. Et puis, la tente d'évacuation pour éviter la thrombose, puisque les temps de passage sous la douche, c'est 1 minute sous l'eau à 32 degrés savonneuse et 1 minute pour le rinçage. Mais ensuite, il faut que les victimes puissent se rhabiller. Donc, il y a une tente assez longue pour pouvoir accueillir une dizaine de personnes de façon à augmenter le débit. Les moyens hospitaliers, eh bien, ils dépendent du dispositif ORSAN, qui est un dispositif d'organisation régionale, qui est en place depuis 2014, qui a été publié en 2015 et mis à jour en 2021. Alors, si je vous donne ces dates, ce n'est pas pour vous les rappeler et que vous les sachiez par cœur, mais c'est bien pour vous montrer que tout ça est évolutif, et que ce n'est pas quelque chose qui est une fois pour toutes dans le marbre, mais on évolue en fonction justement des situations et des contacts. Et donc là, ce qui nous intéresse plus particulièrement, c'était le ORSAN RC. Donc les moyens hospitaliers, eh bien, c'est encore une fois la protection des personnels, la protection des consultants et des familles, et donc de pouvoir réaliser des décontaminations d'urgence des personnes potentiellement contaminées, et là aussi de pouvoir les accueillir au bloc opératoire. Et pour ce faire, eh bien, soit il existe des moyens de décontamination fixes, c'est-à-dire des hangars qu'on peut aménager à proximité du SAU avec des systèmes de douche, soit au contraire, on a des unités mobiles de décontamination, ou alors sous type tente Leusberger, qui sont des tentes gonflables, et qui peuvent permettre justement de décontaminer une personne arrivant en urgence. Ces unités mobiles de décontamination, elles ont aussi comme intérêt de pouvoir faire partir des moyens d'un hôpital de référence vers un hôpital qui se trouve en première ligne et qui, lui, ne serait pas équipé de moyens de décontamination. Donc là, vous avez devant un hôpital des moyens qui sont prépositionnés pour pouvoir accueillir des victimes. Alors, dans les autres pays européens, bien, je vais m'inspirer, si vous voulez, de ce qu'a présenté le docteur Bernico à une session de la SFMC. Ces pays rencontrent les mêmes difficultés que la France, avec généralement une réglementation qui est moins élaborée. Alors, le gant poudreur, ce gant poudreur, si vous voulez, il a un intérêt et des limites. L'intérêt, c'est qu'il va absorber, c'est le toxique liquide, mais le problème, il ne va pas le détruire, c'est-à-dire qu'il va générer au contraire un aérosol et disperser ce toxique dans l'atmosphère. Alors ça, le gant poudreur, il était fait au départ pour les militaires, mais les militaires, ça faisait jusqu'à présent la guerre en terrain vague, et puis ils étaient entraînés, si vous voulez, à poursuivre le combat malgré une contamination. Donc, on a transposé ces moyens, mais ça a des limites. Alors l'Italie, les premiers intervenants sont des sapeurs-pompiers du corps national, et en zone contaminée, ils font une extraction des victimes avec des gestes de premier secours, et ils transfèrent vers une zone chaude, qui est l'équivalent de notre PRV. Et là, sont des équipes d'intervention soignantes formées au risque NRBC qui interviennent avec décontamination d'urgence et décontamination approfondie sur le lieu de l'événement. Et quelques hôpitaux sont dotés du risque NRBC. Pour l'Irlande, la décontamination est assurée par les sapeurs-pompiers et le National Ambulance Service, et seuls quelques hôpitaux sont équipés de moyens de décontamination. La décontamination sèche se fait à l'aide d'un papier adsorbant et ils utilisent la décontamination humide que pour les solutions caustiques. La Belgique, les équipements sont assez hétérogènes, malgré un plan national d'urgence hospitalier qui date d'octobre 2016, qui définit la doctrine et les procédures de prise en charge des victimes. La décontamination est assurée par la sécurité civile et il n'y a qu'un seul hôpital capable de prendre en charge ces blessés, c'est l'hôpital militaire de Bruxelles. Le guide NRBC, dans sa partie prise en charge hospitalière, préconise un local équipé avec des douches. Et pour les hôpitaux situés dans des risques NRBC plus importants, eh bien là, ces hôpitaux sont équipés de vestiaires pour les différentes catégories. L'Espagne. Alors l'Espagne, on peut difficilement parler de l'Espagne dans son ensemble, compte tenu des autonomies territoriales. Et en ce qui concerne la Catalogne, il y a une composante médicale préhospitalière qui est dotée des deux pays d'un module de décontamination légère et d'antidote. Et puis, vous avez un camion qui permet également d'assurer de la contamination de masse. Et là, l'hôpital de référence, c'est l'hôpital toxicologique de Barcelone. La Suisse, une directive de la Confédération met l'application pour l'RBC du ressort des cantons. Et pour les cantons romans, il existe des conventions intercantonales avec du matériel de décontamination qui sont des berces utilisent de nouvelle génération et des petites tentes gonflables. Les dotations et les tenues de protection existent. Et puis, l'armement est assuré par des sapeurs-pompiers et du personnel médical du détachement de sapeurs-pompiers. Et au niveau des hôpitaux, les équipements ne sont pas encore standardisés. En termes de conclusion, vous voyez bien que cette décontamination, c'est une préoccupation commune, mais avec des organisations un peu spécifiques pour chaque pays. Mais ce qui est important, c'est de savoir utiliser les matériels mis à disposition, notamment les tenues de protection, savoir adapter vos masques, savoir les régler, savoir enfiler ces tenues de protection, savoir aussi utiliser les modules de décontamination et puis savoir de qui fait quoi. L'intérêt majeur de la décontamination d'urgence est suffisant pour les composés non persistants. Tenez compte de l'importance de la température. Certains produits sont liquides à une température inférieure à 10 degrés et ils deviennent vapeur au-delà de 10 degrés. Et pour les agents persistants, bien, la décontamination approfondie nécessite d'informer les victimes. Ce n'est pas évident de demander à quelqu'un de dire vous allez vous déshabiller et on va vous passer à la douche. Je crois qu'il y a une démarche pédagogique à faire. Et enfin, n'oubliez pas que les victimes hémorragiques, envoyez-les à l'hôpital, quand même dans des établissements qui sont informés de leur arrivée, de façon à ce qu'elles puissent être prises en charge au bloc opératoire et que l'hémorragie soit stoppée. Je vous remercie.
Merci mon général, et puis pour le respect, comme toujours, du temps de parole. Thank you. Now we'll welcome the Captain Diane Borzelli. She's so in the fire department Bouches-du-Rhône in the south of France, and also zonal advisor for biological risk. And she will talk us about innovations, European innovations in decontamination about biological threats. Thank you, Diane.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Sebastian, for this introduction. So I'm very happy to share with you a presentation of an European civil security project, which is called DEFERM. DEFERM for decontamination measures to restore facilities and the environment after a natural or a deliberate release of pathogenic microorganisms. So in easier words, is how to deal with a contamination situation. This project is not focusing on the decontamination of person, but of our materials, our vehicles. So this European project is actually a bilateral Franco-German project, which has been funded over 3 years, since 2021 until now. Has been funded by, from the French side by the French National Research Agency, EINER, and from the German side it has been funded by the German Federal Ministry of Education and Research. So in this project, there are several partners which are involved. So for the civil protection partner, I'm sorry, I won't pronounce the German words, but the first one is THW, which is the civil protection partner who are volunteers, actually. There is also the firefighter from the Dortmund city. And from the French side, there is the fire department of Bouches-du-Rhône and an expert from the fire department of Alpes-Maritimes in south of France. We are also working with private sector partners like Ademtech in France and the HS Society, which are both biotechnological company, which are involved in the development of the detection measure. We are talking about that just after. We are also working with partners in research. So from the French side, we are working with Institut Pasteur, CEA from Marcoule, also with Lemine Tech Paris for the sociologist part of the project. And from German side, we are working with Robert Koch Institute and the University of Helmut. And we have also institutional partners like EINER, as I told you, and the General Secretariat of the National Defense, which is called SGDSN. So the aim of the project is an innovation in 4 dimensions. The first one is how could we harmonize and optimize our standard operating procedure between the 2 countries. The second is to be enable to create an automated detection thanks to microfluidic technology, which is allow us to detect with a very small quantity of DNA on the field. So it's very interesting, and it's a rapid and sensitive response. The third point is to develop a technical method or devices for biological detection and decontamination. And the last one is the sociologist part, which is involved to study what are the SOPs on the both country in order to share the best procedures. This project is divided in 8 work packages, so I will present you all of them. The first one, the work package A, was consist to study the context and the scenario development, which will be the guideline for all our project. So we first analyze the past event, and we were focusing on define the end user requirement, what we need exactly on the field. So in this work package, we define 2 scenarios will be developed in which contamination is particularly challenging, and the outcome could be enhanced by the integration of the decontamination method that we are going to find in the project. So as I told you, we compare the existing standard operating procedures for decontamination both in Germany and in France. The work package B was focusing on the detection system. Actually, instead of chemical risk, in biological risk, we don't have really tools to detect biological risk on the field. Biological risk, the particularity of this risk is it's invisible. The kinetics, is very low instead of chemical risk. So we don't really have tools for detect this risk, and so we don't know exactly how we can protect ourselves from this kind of risk. So the aim of this work package was really to bring a solution for firefighters, so to end users, to detect this risk with an automated, rapid, sensitive, and easy-to-use detection system, because firefighters are not scientists, so this system needs to be very useful for end users, for sure, to detect several spores, bacteria, viruses, directly at the site of the incident. So we propose some of requirements for us in terms of sampling condition. It needs to be very useful. A detection time. We are on the field, so we need the test needs to be rapid to bring to the end users a rapid answer, including wearing PPE. So we say that we need to have the result in 40 minutes. So now there is already tickets detection, but you have to sampling one by one the sampling to have the response. So in this system, the advantages is it's a multiplex PCR, so we can have a response of more than 20 pathogens in the same time in 40 minutes. So this is a real advance in this field. The work package C was focusing on the disinfection of bacterial and viral pathogens. In a small-scale testing, sampling, and disinfection procedure, which were only in the lab, thanks aerosol chamber. So scientists developed a lot of spore, bacteria, and viruses, and tested the different decontamination procedure we chosen in this project in different conditions, but in lab condition. For the work package D, it was the same thing, but in an operational ground and larger scale process development, like a room. And in this work package, we were focusing on identify what could be the influence parameters by application defined in the precedent work package, like the position of contamination, how complex geometry could influence the spread of the decontamination with aerosol, for example. And in this work package, scientists also define which are the control parameters, like concentration disinfectant, ventilation, humidity, temperature, all parameters that could influence the contamination in a real situation. In the work package E, that were focusing on the institutional preparedness and organizational response of safety culture in both countries. So sociologists were working on this project, and the objective was to compare the national biosafety configuration and the safety culture in both countries. And also to compare study on values and a social dimension on a safety culture. The work package F was the conceptual evaluation of selected decontamination procedures. So we tested all the decontamination procedure we developed on a real condition, but one by one. And we developed tests to enable firefighters to carry out a conceptual evaluation of decontamination process under laboratory condition, which will then be evaluated during the real-life exercise that we are going to see just after. So we evaluate all the operational procedure developed in this project, and we identify the end-user-oriented system setup for the most appropriate decontamination for a given situation. And this work package is in process, actually. We are going to do the field test in the March. So the objective is to evaluate the decontamination procedure through the implementation of a civil protection exercise using the standard procedure and integrating new decontamination detection tools. So for the context of the exercise, in order to place the cooperation between France and Germany, as the exercise will take place of south of France, to place the cooperation, it's not a cross-border cooperation. The context of the exercise will be Bouches-du-Rhône firefighters are mobilized for the 2024 Olympic Games, and they are dealing with a lot of forest, major fire forests. And in this context, where the threat of bioterrorism attack is feared, thanks to the European civil mechanisms, the German CBRN modules are come in reinforcement in south of France. And this includes modules for decontamination and detection. So in this context, following a symposium in Conakry, a French-German delegation returns to Europe. On the return flight, one person presents severe hemorrhagic fever-like symptom. So fire department of Bouches-du-Rhône received a request from Marseille Provence Airport to take charge of the victim. For the exercise, we are voluntarily shooting agreement outside SAMU procedure. So the aim of the exercise is divided in two parts. The first one is a detection system. So for the detection, we are going to put some surrogates into ambulances, into tent, in order to mimic the contamination. And we are going to try to detect with the detection system we developed. So firefighter will sampling on the different surrogates we are going to put in the ambulance. And once is done, you just have to put your sample into the tube, which is a kind of cartridge, where the multiplex PCR is able to be done. And after, you just have to put the cartridge on the machine, and it's automatically read the sample. And we can read and have an answer with the curve, so it's fully automated, and we have a response until 40 minutes. So, thanks to the project, if we suspect a contamination, anyway, which is the microorganisms, actually it doesn't important. For the air decontamination, the project concludes that the most appropriate decontamination is the aerosol of hydrogen peroxide. If we have surface contamination, several steps are necessary. For the first one of all is we have to clean the surface for sure. So once it's clean, for the electronic equipment, we can use both hydrogen peroxide plus a UV lamp in combination. If there is a complex geometry, we can add parasitic acid, but you have to be careful in which material is. For plastic material, it's okay, but not for aluminum or material like that. Plus hydrogen peroxide. And if it's an outdoor decontamination, the project developed Confoam, which is a foam with disinfectant inside, which is quite a dry foam, which is able to remain on the top of a structure without falling. So it's a very interesting process of decontamination. The last one were the Work Package H, which were dissemination and scientific exchange for sure. And as conclusion, the most important things of the project was the reduction of common soaps between the two countries, and that is in process. That lead to a better understanding of biohazards management procedure between the two countries. And for the Confoam that I told you, there is actually an industrial scale-up of development prototype because there were a patent on this technology. So we hope it could be developed for the future. So I've now, my presentation is now over, so thank you for your attention.
Merci beaucoup, Diane. Thank you, Diane, for this very interesting topic about innovation in biological domain. Now, let me introduce you to the Major Alexis Mollier, also from the Fire Department Bouches-du-Rhône, south of France, and he's the zonal advisor for chemical risk. So after the biological, we will talk about chemical, and he will explain us how we can host European modules when we have a CBRN crisis, and a feedback about European exercise called DOMINO, who took place in south of France.
Thank you, Sebastian. Hello, everybody. I'm going to present to you the feedback of DOMINO exercise, which took place in Bouches-du-Rhône department in May 2022. So, what is DOMINO 2022? It was an exercise. During this exercise, it was one of the most important training of the year, and every year you can see several civil security exercises are organized in Europe to allow the various crisis management actors to work together. The scenario was based on a Mediterranean event called Medicane. This natural phenomenon leads to a succession of accidents occurring in cascade on industrial installation. This is called a domino effect. So what are the main objectives of this exercise? To improve the national disaster response preparedness facing major industrial accidents requiring the activation of Union civil protection mechanisms, and to play French capacity limits and European assistance. So, the exercise filed. What is a Medicane? This is a violent climatic event located in the Mediterranean, and for the exercise, the hurricane affects the Étang de Berre and the Gulf and the Fosse Gulf as part of this exercise. So then, a few videos about DOMINO 222.
Exercise, test N alert prefecture 13. This notification does not require any response or action on your part. In the event of an emergency, you could have received the following message: industrial accident alert. An explosion on the Nevera site in Martigues has just taken place.
Dès l'instant que maintenant je vous donne l'info que le PPI est lancé, vous pouvez activer le PCO. Hein. diapositive qui nous représente la situation et le point de ce qui se passe avec les différents moyens, le nombre de sapeurs-pompiers, les nombres d'interventions.
The domino effect begins. The situation in the region is becoming very worrying. A hydrocarbon tank fire broke out in the town of Fos-sur-Mer, and a major leak was observed in Bear Pond. Faced with this pollution that is difficult to control, France finds itself faced with a capacity breakdown in terms of the operational response of civil protection resources. To fix this situation, French authorities decided to request European assistance within the framework of the European Union Civil Protection Mechanism. The populations close to the danger zones are asked to be confined.
Okay. So the drone ship has to go to the boom. And the helicopter is waiting for you guys.
Co-financed by the European Commission, the full-scale exercise Domino 2022 was piloted by the French Ministry of Interior and brought together the German, Austrian, Belgian and Spanish civil protection modules as well as the Training Center for Civil Security, Research, New Technologies and Prevention in the field of natural risks. This large-scale exercise aimed to improve national disaster prevention and response. Built around industrial risks with cascading effects, it presented multiple challenges. Asterisk activation of the European Union Civil Protection Mechanism and reception of European modules by France. Asterisk interoperability. Asterisk exchange of information in a degraded operational context. A large-scale exercise that will allow rich human exchanges between European emergency units and allow the improvement of the large-scale relief chain in order to help the populations.
So, as you can see on this video, it was during 2 days a succession of 8 major accidents of industrial installation. So, what were the objectives of this exercise? The first is to improve the national disaster response preparedness. And as you can see, then the first objective is to implement all local, national, and European actors to respond to the situation which exceeds French capacities. A set of actors to be coordinated at local, national, and European level: firefighters, first responder, municipality, industrial, municipal, departmental, national, and European operational center. As you can see in this picture, it was approximately a number of players between 900 and 1,900 players. So the second objective was to test SIP alert. What is SIP? It is the Population Alert and Information System is a set of tools which make it possible to warn the population of a given area of an imminent danger and to inform them about the nature of the risk and the behavior to follow. You can recognize the SIP as a cycle of 1 minute and 41 seconds, repeat 3 times by the warning sirens. Another objective was to test FR Alert cell broadcast. FR Alert is a new population alert and information system. It is deployed nationally since the end of June 2022. FR Alert allows anyone with a mobile phone to be notified in real time of their presence in a danger zone in order to inform them of the behavior to adopt to protect themselves. If you are in one of the areas affected by imminent danger, you may receive a notification accompanied by a specific sound signal, even if your mobile phone is in silent mode. Another objective is to test the mobilization of European civil protection mechanism. What is it? You can see on this little video how we can mobilize them.
The EU civil protection mechanism is there to power a strong European response. So how does it work? When a disaster overwhelms a country in or outside Europe, it can request assistance through the EU's Emergency Response Coordination Centre, ERCC, in Brussels, which monitors global events 24/7. The mechanism is now activated, and through it, the EU countries and participating states can offer emergency assistance, such as medical equipment or firefighting teams. Once the affected country accepts the offers, the ERCC coordinates deployment and delivery of the aid, with the EU covering most of the logistical costs or sending additional support from its own strategic reserves. Since its launch in 2001, the EU Civil Protection Mechanism has responded to over 650 worldwide requests for assistance. It mobilized support following the COVID-19 pandemic outbreak, Russia's war on Ukraine, wildfires in Europe, earthquakes in Syria and Turkey, and other emergencies. Even when not actively responding, the mechanism works to strengthen disaster preparedness and crisis response practices. So when a disaster unfolds, international teams can better work together to deliver vital help to those who need it most.
Another objective was to deploy European models. So we got 5 countries engaged: France, Spain, Austria, Belgium, and Dutch. For example, we got CBRN detection and sampling modules, high-capacity pumping modules, water purification modules, CBRN decontamination modules, and drones modules. One of the first objectives was to test their interoperability and to test the integration of these modules and the concept of host nation support. Another objective was to test Phoenix. So Phoenix is a strategic communication solution in the event of loss of telecommunication network crisis civil security. So what does they offer? The proposed Phoenix solution is composed of 3 main elements: technical and operational expertise to define the appropriate solution according to the needs and objective of the command of the fields. Then a toolbox to deploy communication solution to the operational situation. And then an autonomy of the team and the equipment in the event of travel by road. This kind of exercise is useful because few months later, for example, in Gironde for the wildfires, we can see all the European resources engaged. For Germany, Romania, from Poland, Austria, Greece, and Italy. So, as a conclusion, this exercise made it possible to test and implement the French and European civil security response to a large-scale industrial event. This exercise made it easier to implement during the Gironde fire forest during the summer of 2022, and the implementation is useful as a good tool in the face of climatic events that we are experiencing. So, thank you for your attention. If you have any questions.
Thank you, Alexis. Merci à tous. Nous sommes dans les temps. We are on time, so we have 15 minutes for a few questions for our experts. Il nous reste 15 minutes d'échange avec nos experts. Si vous avez des questions en français ou en anglais en fonction de votre appétence.
Hello, thank you for this presentation. As questions are very operational, we have seen in all the guidelines this regarding the zoning of the area, these 50 meters, and taking into account the wind. I would like to ask what about inside the building, if it's the same perimeter, if we have to take into account linear meters or the ventilation systems. This would be my first question. And then the second one, because I work in a critical building, sometimes we receive a suspicious envelope, a letter. So in case of a biological pathogen, in Belgium, the mobilization time is between 1 and 2 hours for the civil protection units to come. So if these people receive a shower, what will be for the environment the effect, if it is enough to with running the water and bleach, or this should be avoided and wait until the special units come? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. So for the first one, actually, the decontamination of structure is not the mission of firefighters. So the project was really focusing on the decontamination of our materials, our vehicles, our maybe tent for medical post-advance, for example, but we are really not supposed to make decontamination of a building, actually. In this case, the préfet, in general, will call for a specialist company for these things, because we don't have any certification to assess that this building is decontaminated. So we can do that, actually. So it's really for the decontamination of our materials, actually. And the second question, could you repeat it, please?
I was asking about the zoning. If it's inside the building, we need to take into account these 50 meters for the exclusion zone also, or it's only outside? And if in case that the person takes a shower, what will be the risk for the environment if it goes through the natural?
All depends of the kind of chemical product. 50 meters is the first area for the first responder. When you get specialists at this place, we can have more area, depending of measure. This is the kind of area we take for the first responder. After measurement, we can define more specifically an area, bigger or smaller, but all depend of the detection we can see on this place.
And as you told, if it's inside a building, we will consider the building for the exclusion zone, and we have to keep in mind the ventilation system. Especially, it's difficult for a subway attack because of the circulation of the air between stations and outside the station. But normally, when something happens inside a facility, we consider as a exclusion zone, hot zone, only the building or the facility. Okay. Oui, une autre question là-bas.
Okay, merci. Une question courte, merci pour vos quatre. Alors, je voulais poser la question aux professeurs, les professeurs qui ont intervenu en premier. C'est au sujet de la réglementation. C'est au sujet des textes de la réglementation. Alors, vous nous avez parlé, disons, du texte qui règle au niveau français, et vous nous avez dit que c'était différent du texte espagnol et d'autres pays. Alors, comment est-ce que vous arrivez à harmoniser tous ces textes-là au niveau de l'Europe?
Alors, justement, si vous voulez, chaque pays, compte tenu des événements qu'il a vécus, des réflexions qu'il a menées, et de ses expériences personnelles, a construit des textes. Des textes, ils ne sont pas nés comme ça, ex nihilo. Ils sont nés de réflexion. Moi, personnellement, j'ai commencé à travailler avec mes maîtres depuis dans les années 1990 sur ces scénarios, justement. Donc, et chaque pays avance à son rythme. Et puis, il y a des priorités qui peuvent être données. Tout ça, vous comprenez bien, il faut des moyens. Bon, la France, elle a son secrétariat général de la défense et de la sécurité nationale. Donc cet organisme, comme je vous le disais, qui dépend du Premier ministre, il a sollicité des compétences et il a réussi à faire une synthèse. Et tout ça, si vous voulez, est appelé à évoluer dans le temps. Et donc chaque pays, et alors certains pays comme l'Espagne qui a différentes régions, évolue aussi à son rythme, hein. C'est pas un coup près absolu. Et puis encore une fois, ce qu'il ne faut pas oublier, c'est que la journée où on aura un événement NRBC qui soit avec du composé de guerre ou du composé civil, je peux vous garantir que ça sera la peur, la panique et la pagaille. Et à partir de là, on aura encore des évolutions. Voilà.
Je crois que plutôt qu'une harmonisation des normes au niveau européen, c'est surtout de connaître quelles sont les capacités de chacun et de voir comment ils peuvent s'intégrer. Et justement, pour rebondir, I have a question for you, Alexis. You told one of the aim of this exercise was to test the interoperability of all those modules. Is it a success? Are the material and procedures the same in other countries of Europe? And do we have this interoperability after this exercise?
The main important was to know the process of the other country. And French civil protection doesn't know other process country. So it was a success to discover them. So then we have a lot to learn about other countries, about their practice, and this kind of exercise is an important thing because we learn a lot. So I think we have a lot of work to continue about this because all the connections are not very good today. I think we have to progress on this part.
Okay, thank you. Maybe time for a short question too?
Yes, thank you. Philippe Quevovillier from European Commission. I would like to complement, if I may, Professor Renaudot comment to you, because the health issue is of regalian character, so there are no European regulation regarding health policies. So today, there are recommendations which are expressed, but there are no formal binding regulations at European level yet, for the simple reason that health security are of regalian character. I think about, and I would like just to make a comment to Alexis Mollier and Diane Borselli about your project, which I found very, very interesting. Well, I'm in very close contact with the Union Civil Protection Knowledge Network and also the Cluster 3, you know, Horizon Europe. And I see with interest that you have developed decontamination exercises and research with THW. Just to let you know that we have also research which are complementary at European level, and I think it will be very nice to see whether synergies with national projects and exercises like you are doing with UCPM could be merged, in fact, and functioning in cluster with European projects. And I will discuss about this in my presentation and encourage you to look at what we are doing in a community which is called Community for European Research and Innovation for Security series, just to try to work together in a better way, because we are dispersing a little bit our resources, which is a pity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And just for me, a last question for you, Diane. You told us about innovations in biological decontamination, especially the cone foam. When can you expect to have this in routine?
When the scale up to the industrial scale will be done, actually. So the patent is in process to be sold to an industrial company specialized in this field. So we hope that for the few years which are coming. But the difficulty in the CBRN field is there is not much client, actually. So for industrial companies, it's difficult to sell patent because they don't give so much money to industrial companies. So that's the difficulty. The difficulty is not to find solution and to propose new tools, is to really have this scale up to the industrial scale, actually.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we start this third part of the meeting of the French Society of Disaster Medicine in Secours, during Secours Expo. We have three presentations for this session, which is focused on a European project. We have seen with the different crises, actually, before, perhaps in the future, it's very important to work together in Europe to share the experience of each country, of each department, each service together. We have different projects, research projects and cooperation projects. And now we have three presentations about this topic. The first presentation is performed by Philippe Queveauvilliers from the European Commission. Philippe, it's for you, to you.
Thank you very much for your introduction. And well, I'm very pleased to be here, and I thank very much Catherine for inviting me to this session. Well, I will make you a kind of snapshot of projects which are funded by the European Commission on CBRN. But I would like to focus also on the needs for synergies among what Europe is doing and what the national research are also performing. So first of all, I'll try, yeah? Okay. Well, first of all, I would like to put a little landscape about what Horizon Europe is doing. So Horizon Europe is a framework program of 7 years, which have different clusters. One is focused on medical issues, cluster 1, but cluster 3 is looking at security. So we are here dealing with not only civil protection, but also issues related to fight against crime and terrorism, border management, resilient infrastructure. I'm in charge in this program of defining research topics for the disaster resilient societies. And in this respect, I'm working a lot with different types of practitioners, including the emergency services. Well, very quickly, because I don't know if the slides will be circulated, but they will be. In fact, I can share that later. I would like to stress that this destination, while the thematic area, are looking at enhanced exploitation of results understanding, improved knowledge of situational awareness of risk by citizens, looking at cross-sectorial discipline, cross-border coordination of the overall disaster risk management cycle, that is prevention, preparedness, response, recovery, looking at cross-discipline dialogue, networking among the scientific community, research, responders, actually through actions fostering science into practice, looking at capacities of first responders in all operational phases, and improved ability to rescue and manage the first phases of emergency. So you see that it is really closely related to the needs that the emergency services have. I would like just to very quickly to tell you how complex is the world in which we have to deal regarding the research uptake. First of all, to try to ensure that the links among disasters, policies and networks of actors are made effective, from upstream research to downstream. And we are dealing with different types of actors, policy sectors, research industry, practitioners, civil society, and a large range of policies, from UN, international policy, international level, to national policies in different sectors. And at EU level, we are looking at the international level, which is a Sendai, so-called Sendai Framework for Action, which is looking at the disaster risk reduction, which is not binding, but which is implemented in the European Union by the Union Civil Protection Mechanism, which you have heard about earlier. And in this respect, we are looking at different types of hazards, different types of policies related, for example, to drought, flood, while storms at sea, cross-border threats to health, Seveso 3 related to industrial accidents, which are binding by law. When I mentioned that the regulating character is important, here we have EU directives which are transposed into national law, which are binding at national level. When we are dealing to security aspects, CBRN action plan is leading to recommendations, as well as protection of critical infrastructure, which is now, well, a directive, and protection of public spaces. When we are dealing with this issue of security, we are releasing recommendations, working with the recommendations, but we are not binding by law. It's not binding by law, because these sectors are regalian. Here we are entering into the sovereignty of the states, and we have to find the right way to ensure that research will contribute to the national needs, the security needs, while not being binding by law. So here, there are a lot of different projects which are running from Horizon Europe, different clusters, capacity building. You had a project, an example with DOMINO, which is funded by DG ECO, capacity building, education training. And we are trying to set up clusters of projects in different thematic areas. And there is one cluster on CBRN, others for climate hazards, geohazards, and health hazards. And we try as much as possible to have a link, a dialogue with industry SMEs to, well, fill the gap between research and industry. And the different areas which are looking at are societal resilience, looking at the citizen dimension, integrated risk management, standardization, support to standardization, and support to technologies for first and second responders. In this respect, I would like to say that we have different types of actions, research and innovation action, which are really to develop tools, technologies, methods at a TRL, technological readiness level that will be at the level 5, 6, prototype, laboratory prototype. Innovation actions where we try to be closer to the market, trying to test methods which have been developed by research, testing that in field condition, to have a higher TRL, but we do not enter into the marketability of the tools. We are stopping here at the research tools, which is a difficulty, but we are a research program, not, I would say, a program that incentivizes the market entry. We have also support action, and I will give you examples of networks of practitioners in the field of climate emergencies. Please permit me to pass this next slide very quickly. I have made a selection of projects just to illustrate the type of research I would say, landscapes that we are looking at. And the first one is a project called Proactive, which is looking at preparedness against CBRN threats through common approaches between security practitioners and civil society. This project actually is quite interesting because it's the first project that I saw that led to demonstration of CBRN incidents involving practitioners, well, involving also emergency services, but also victims in a way. But Catherine, you mentioned, it's different to work with mannequins and people who are volunteering to act as victims. And I was quite impressed to see that indeed they were coordinating the different the first responders sectors, as well as looking at these volunteers that were standing like that. For me, it was quite a big experience. This Nightingale project is looking at really integrated toolkit for emergency medical responses. And here you are really entering into tools and technologies, for example, looking at triage, intelligent systems, interoperability, multi-agency collaboration. We are not here about demo, but we are more into the technology side. Another project which is also looking at BCB aspects is a PathoCert project, which is here looking at pathogen contamination in case of a natural hazard. For example, if there are some flooding in an urban area, you will have a risk of contamination by pathogens. And this project is looking at how to coordinate better the medical responses regarding the tools that they are developing for pathogens. The Med1 MR project is looking at preparation of medical first responders for stressful situations by developing new kind of mixed reality training systems. So here we are looking at more issues of garments, wearable, different scenarios, different training to try to help medical emergency people to cope with the stress in the case of a disaster and protect them better. Team Up is a new project which is looking also again at technology, looking at upskilled first responders and enhanced CBRN response, looking at different type of tools. Decontamination, I heard a project this morning about decontamination. There are different type of projects like this to validate tools through multi-level exercises and so on. I'm a little bit quick, but Synergize is a project which is looking at international cooperation regarding different needs expressed by first responders. And it deals, for example, to locations of first responders with different devices, wearable devices, health and well-being of first responder, safer operation, and more efficient decision-making. When I say international cooperation, we have opened this topic to cooperation with Japan, Canada, US, in the context of a large international framework. Including, well, Sabina will certainly say a few words about this. I just say that I've attended very interesting exercises in Rome about a radiological incident where we had triage of victims, evacuation of victims, going to the, and Sabina will certainly speak about this, Gemelli Hospital, decontamination, treatment of victims. And this was a real-time exercises, which was really quite impressive. And this is a network for practitioners. It's not research, it's really demonstration of exercises. No Fear is the same. Network for practitioners for emergency medical system and critical care, dealing with a lot of reports, compiling information, existing information, identifying research gaps, and helping us to have a better research programming in this area. This is a procurement, which is maybe one way to fill the gap between research and capacity. So this is to improve triage scenarios through flexible management system, using actually the possibility at national level to have call for tenders that are really focused on procurement. This is maybe a possibility in the future to not dealing only with research, but going a step forward in terms of marketability. And finally, I would like to stress that the DG ECO, that is Union Civil Protection Mechanism, is funding capacity building projects, which are smaller scales than research. And eNotice is one example of this, a network of training center for preparedness to CBRN events, networking training centers and using them to validate tools and technologies which are coming from research, which is quite interesting, and is also a funding which is maybe a little bit less known. DOMINO is an example of this. It has been funded with this program. We have a call which is currently open that will be published in March 2024 with a deadline in November 2024, which is about improving social and societal preparedness for disaster response for health emergencies. Well, I encourage you to look at this. It's called DRS 23. It's a current call, so it's in 2023. So it will be a project that will start in May or June, and in 24 we'll have a new call. Look at this also, because you have also topics which are open for health-related issues. Going fast because I know that the time is is a little bit tight. I would like finally to give you a little information about a community building that is being growing since 2014, which is called Community for European Research and Innovation for Security, where you can apply, you can receive regular information. We are gathering projects of different programs together, establishing dialogue among policymakers, scientists, first responders, industry, and so on. And there are a lot of events which are organized in Brussels, either physical, in person, but also online and in different places. On CBRN, we have one meeting that is scheduled in Strasbourg on the 21st of March, focused really on CBRN, and that will involve something like 15 projects funded by the European Union. You may apply to this using this link. It's free of charge. We will not be spammed. You will simply receive focused information on the possibility to network, about sharing knowledge, and also share with us your experience and your feedback about what is going on in your respective countries. And I thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we will make the question time at the end of the session. So it's now we have the next presentation from Yannick Morel from the French Health Ministry, more precisely the General Direction of Health. Yannick, sorry.
Okay. Hello. So, it's working? Yes. I will discuss another aspect of EU support, not for R&D, but for the procurement of stockpiles. So you know DG Eco from the Commission, which is the Civil Protection Directorate, and DG Eco manages a program which is called Rescue, which contains different capabilities. And when we say capabilities, it's a whole package of operational people, a team, material. The transportation is included. It's a whole package. So there are different capacities already registered in this rescue program. You all know, of course, the capacity for forest fire, and others. And you see here that the budget has been attributed by the Commission to different member states who are in charge of building these capacities and maintaining these capacities for the program. And now we will focus on the red area, which are stockpiles. And it's a specific capacity. It's not really a capacity, but because it's only material stockpiles, so it's not a team. It's just physically stockpiles. This started in 2021 to face the COVID crisis. And these stockpiles were essentially PPEs like face masks or gloves. And the Commission decided to have a big surge in 2022 and 2023 because the Commission invested 1.2 billion euros to found stockpiles, especially for CBRN threats. So there were two calls in 2022 and 2023. And what is important is to see that these stockpiles are financed 100% by the Commission. And an important point is to see that these European stockpiles are not meant to replace national stockpiles. It's just a complement. So the Commission always mentions that each member state has to build and maintain its own national stockpile. But this European rescue stockpile can be added in case a member state has a big problem. And so the philosophy of these stockpiles is that they can be deployed in a very short time, in about 12 hours. And also this big budget I mentioned was dedicated for sanitary stockpiles. So it's especially focusing medical aspects. And it was decided also late in 2021 by the Commission to create a new directorate, which is called HERA, for Health Emergency and Response Authority. And this entity of the Commission is in charge of defining what is to be included in the stockpiles, and has also other tools like joint procurements. So if different member states want to join to buy medicines, for example, together, and other support to industry. So I will now describe what is in these rescue stockpiles. The Commission has targeted specific threats which are within the missions of this new entity, HERA. And these three main threats are the CBRN threats, the pandemics, future pandemics, and also antimicrobial resistance. But for AMR, it's more a specific problem is to make sure that we don't have shortages in the future. You all know that each winter, a large number of member states are facing shortages, for example, for some antibiotics. And so this, the Commission wants to anticipate that and try to mitigate the problem. But stockpiling is not really a good solution because it may increase the shortage. And in these stockpiles, I mentioned pandemics, and for pandemics, you know, we need specific medicines for intensive care units and equipments. And so the process is the following. The DG ECO signed grant agreements for some member states. These member states are currently preparing the procurement and gathering the products, and they constitute stockpiles which will be available starting from now and in the near future. For one member state to access these European stockpiles, they have to go through the ERCC mechanism, and so ask DG ECO to benefit from the stockpile. Of course, the exact content of the stockpile is not publicly available, especially for CBRN countermeasures, because you know it's a sensitive area which is linked to defense and security. So now I will dwell a little on what France proposed. Other member states are constituting stockpiles, but I don't have the exact contents. If other member states want to know what is in these other stockpiles in other countries, they have to ask DG ECO. What we proposed in France and what the Commission accepted is a specific approach to include in the stockpiles modules which are pre-packed units with different items. So it's not just a concatenation of isolated items, it's modules. You see trunks, you see a set of pallets, and we have different type of modules: field medical emergency, specific for CBRN, or for general medical catastrophes. Hospital modules, which are not meant for the field, but to support a hospital which may have a lot of CBRN casualties. And we have also modules to equip first responders. So it's non-medical material. It's PPEs, detectors, and small decontamination means. So you see on the top picture, it's trunks for field medical modules. And the picture downside, it's a set of pallets with different CBRN equipment. And this set of pallets is enough to equip about 100, 150 first responders with everything they need. Different PPEs, different detectors, and we have different types of kits. Some is a CBRN generic covering C, B, and R, and other are more specific modules dedicated to chemical risk, B risk, or R risks. Apart from these modules, we have also proposed to the Commission, which has accepted, some isolated items. So we have specific medicines, some antivirals, some different medicines. Consumable for diagnostics. Well, these two type of items are, of course, needed in large quantities in case you have to face large epidemics or a pandemic. And also a stockpile of radiological dosimeters and escape hoods. So this material is not for first responders, it's more for the population. So these stockpiles are currently being constituted. They are not available yet, or just the first part of it. What is important to see that it's a new way for the Commission to implement preparedness activities, and we still have to work on the way to practically deploy these stockpiles, because once again, it's not a full capacity. So if a member state want to access this stockpile, the member states who are the custodian of the stockpile, for example, France, we just have to prepare the pallets, but we don't, in the grant agreement that we have with the Commission, we don't have the transportation. So the transportation has to be organized either by DG ECO or by the requesting member state. And there are also some specific problems because we have a lot of medicines included in the stockpiles. So there is the European and national pharmaceutical regulations that apply. And sometimes we have specific issues with the custom. And of course, there are other issues to be solved for the global management on the long term of these stockpiles is the maintenance, the recycling, because if the stockpile is not used, because there has been no catastrophe, which is a good news, but what can we do with the stockpile? Do we have to destroy the products at the end of the shelf life, or can we recycle it by donations, for example? And this raises some legal questions which are not solved currently. And last but not least, in these stockpiles, we focus to involve EU products rather than products imported outside of the EU, because it's very important for niche products like CBRN or emergency countermeasures to have production located within Europe. In case of a large crisis, a global crisis, it's always better to have its own capacity. And to finish, I will just mention that this French project is a governmental project coordinated by DGS, the Ministry of Health in France, but with different partners, public ones and private ones. So we have the Paris hospitals in charge of hospital modules. We have IRSN for the dosimeters, and of course civil security, which makes the links with DG ECO. And we have also industry partners. You see in the box the partners for non-medical equipment, and CSP Movianto is our partner to constitute field medical modules and the storage of medicines. So I have finished.
Thank you, Mr. Morel, for this presentation. And we know we have the third presentation from Professor Sabina Magalini on the safeguarding of our healthcare system against cyber attack.
Good morning to all. My name is Sabina Magalini and I'm an emergency surgeon. I have retired in January this year to deal with over 10 European projects that our group is dealing with. We act also as innovation managers for the security sector of our hospital with critical infrastructure protections. And Catherine asked me to tell you how to safeguard our cybersecurity culture in the healthcare sector, which is a especially challenging problem. Okay, I will do a just shorter overview of the problem, the experience that we've had with European projects, which have helped us very much, and some suggestion to increase resilience or how you have to look at cybersecurity resilience as a healthcare professional. Okay. Anyone who wants to know something about the threats that in cybersecurity that we have in Europe in the healthcare sector has to read once a year the ENISA report. This report is done by a European agency that is based in Crete and goes through all the cyber threats, cyber accidents that have happened in Europe all over the year and gives the main alerts. This year, in July 2023, cyber threats are all over the place. All your countries and probably all your hospitals and healthcare systems have had some kind of cyber problems. But the most important ones that we're looking at now are accidents that happen in hospitals. Healthcare gets about 53 is the magic number. Healthcare gets 53% of all cyber attacks in the community. And 53% of healthcare attacks usually happen in between hospital and emergency services. One of the most important things that have been targeted now are the supply chains and the service providers. When you get a cyber attack, more than having a denial of service inside your hospital or your system, you will see that you will not be able to access supplies. And this is very important in the emergency sector because the access to supplies is practically our vital flow. And also on the service providers, many connected medical devices that we are starting to use more and more, also in the emergency medical service, etc., are not cyber secure. I'll explain that better to you later. Another fact that is important to remember is that even the smallest cyber attack you have in your system will cost you at least 300,000 euros. It can cost also 6 million euros. It happened in Ireland 3 years ago because it was massive. But even if you have a small incident in your sector, this is the amount you're going to spend. If you have 5 or 6 a year, you can understand this. There's another, let's say, myth that is going around the cybersecurity community now, that since we are now starting in, let's say, an epoch of warfare, there have been more attacks due to, let's say, cyber incidents. For example, in Ukraine, there was a lot of activity taking place, and it was starting from Russia. Now we have the war in Israel. So this, in reality, until now, has impacted only about 7% of our system. So warfare, okay, this is not one of the arms they are relying on, basically. Okay. The other thing that is important, that once there was ransomware, and ransomware was due to very intelligent hackers that got into your system, stole the data. Today, this is as easy as you can do it. Any one of you can go on the internet, go on ransomware.com, and get off-the-shelf systems to do ransomware. They actually teach you how to do it. So practically now, to do a ransomware attack, any normal criminal can do it. He doesn't have to be an especially intelligent hacker. To consider also that most of the systems we're working in are 20 years old. Some of them have been updated, let's say 10 years ago, but if you go look deeply into the systems you're using, you will see that they were old. So what do we have to do? We have to adopt a zero trust approach. There is nothing we can rely on except the security that we guarantee the system. Saying we means that anyone that accesses your system has to go through passwords and all the security measures that are enforced. You can't skip any of these. And also one recommendation that is also in the NIST directive that usually European healthcare systems follow is that you have to have a one-year audit. Once a year your system has to be checked for vulnerability assessment, and also that you have to use the most modern software's antivirus, which is up to your IT system, not to you personally as a healthcare operator. The other, for the scenarios, we are now in the tail of the COVID epidemic. During COVID, our scenarios completely changed. Telehealth went up 4,000% respect to what it was before. Smart working, which is one of the other very important ways through which we get cyber attack, is still enforced very much in hospitals. Even if people are going back to work in the office now. The infection monitor data flows, which we had during COVID, are still there. Some hospitals are still enforcing them because they are very good for public health care. But these also systems are not protected. They were put up for COVID reasons, and they can be breaches in these systems that go into your system. And also there are new apps every place. Every one of us who reads anything about whatever we do, there's a new app that's doing it. Many of these apps are not secure when you connect them to your systems, okay? Two very important ideas that you have to have. One thing is securing your system, and one thing is securing what your system is doing. Okay, we are healthcare operators, so our system is patient treatment, patient cure. It's not taking care of the IT problems of our hospitals or our IT systems. So what we see is how these cyber attacks or cyber threats or denial of services or whatever you get are going to impact the way you're curing or you're treating the patient. Once we used to say, okay, this is something that is going to actually damage the patient. Today, there are many metrics also there in scientific literature that show you that a delay in procedure actually does harm to more than half of your patients. Okay, so just a simple delay in procedure, like you saw before on the blood, even a simple 10 minutes that you retard giving blood is, and the same thing happens in cybersecurity when you have the threats, because you cannot mobilitate the patients, you cannot see what kind of therapy they have to do, you have a delay in procedure when you have a problem with your IT system. So the medical complications, not only the patient mortality, but also the medical complications rise by 28%. So basically you're having a damage to your patient, either in morbidity or mortality, of about 70%. This in emergency situation. The other situation, which is potentially a big threat, is in the connected medical devices. Connected medical devices are much, much more important now than they were 4 or 5 years ago. Today you do blood exams in the wards, you do not send the blood, you have a lot of point-of-care devices, and a lot of the monitoring systems that you are also using on the ambulances that somehow connects to a central emergency department are not cyber secure. We buy them because they're practical, because they're useful, but not because they're cyber secure. And nobody is checking on this because there are a lot of viruses that can go on these systems, especially when you connect them. We dealt with European project in this sector. Now it has been 7 years. From 2019, the European community has given money to deal with research in this sector because they understood that in the healthcare, the problems were completely different. We are not a nuclear power plant. We are open like a hospital is like a big port. There's no security. Everyone is going in and out, and the systems we use are not secure. So we started participating from 2019, writing these projects from the healthcare perspective, and we have a lot, at least 4 now, but maybe a 5th now. The first one we started with was Panacea. That is the name is cute, but practically we developed 7 technical tools. I will show you 2 or 3 of these, but especially human-based tools that are training, security measures, nudging techniques that the human resources of the hospital and of the emergency management system should enforce for the operators. They have to teach you how to use the systems, and they have to guarantee you that they're giving you all the possibilities to do it correctly and without going crazy, because when you have to put your password and your identification number 3 times inside the system just to get a therapy out or validate what you're doing, it is really very difficult. Okay. After Panacea, which was a 3-year project, actually the Digital Europe system is something from the European Commission that gives you money to enforce, to use the tools that you have developed in the systems inside your reality. I suggest if some of you does a management operations to go look into Digital Europe. They give you actually 50% of your investment to augment the cybersecurity of your systems. We won one of these projects together with a Spanish and a Greek hospital, and we are enforcing something we have developed in Panacea in our hospitals. This is another project, so I skip on this. This is on business continuity. Okay, because what have we discovered in these years? That everyone is going to get a cyber attack. Okay, you can be as secure as you want, but what you have to look at is that even if you have it, you have some kind of business continuity. This is the new iteration that we're going to. So we're asking industry to give us tools to do business continuity. We're thinking in a different mindset. Okay. This Dynamo project is something coordinated by Fraunhofer that's dealing with this. So what suggestions can I give you? Some are technical. Obviously, your hospital, your systems have to be updated, but that is not your responsibility. Actually, it is how much money you have to do it and how they want to make the investment. The human behavior is very important, and one has to comply with the directives of the human resources, but these must be very precise. And also to focus, each one of us, when we're doing something, on the business continuity. What is going to happen if my system goes down? What am I going to do? Okay. One of the things that can be done are nudges to have better behaviors. Nudges may seem something stupid, you have a nudge, but they have been shown to be very, very important. All the vulnerability lists you see there on the left are all behaviors that we have had constantly. We did a whole research project to identify them. Each one impacts in a lesser or more important way on what we're doing. So to overcome our vulnerabilities, some of these projects have identified nudges. For example, something that seems very stupid, but is very, very useful, are small posters and reminders close to the workstation. Because one of the problems is that people never log out. Also in labs, everything, they give only one password and you're always there. So there's no logging out. So if you put a small reminder close to the workstation, here we did it, we were 3 nations, 3 member states participating in the project in Greek, in English and Italian, but okay, this is one one of a kind. Then another thing is pins. Operators, healthcare operators love pins. So if you distribute some kind of pins of reminding cybersecurity, people will wear them very voluntarily, and they're happy, and this is something that has had a lot of success in the metrics of the human resources. And another thing that still we have old workstations with USB ports. To put on the USB port some kind of a reminder that whatever you're sticking in there is never secure, okay? This was just one of the many things that this English professor thought of, this Lynn Coventry. She's one of the English professors that's dealing with it. Okay, something like these, nudges to do something better. Okay, another thing that is very important is a technical tool, and we developed it together with a French industry that is called IDEMIA. There are people that work for airports. A system to identify to your workstation with your face, with biometric recognition, which is something I'm sure everyone is dreaming of, that you enter into your office or wherever you are, and the computer says, good morning, how are you? Because they recognize you, no identification, no login, etc. There is a secure system, like the ones that we have in airports, that can work also with masks. Also with masks that cover just not the root of your nose, but up to here. This research project has identified these systems. These systems are costly. Hospitals do not want to buy them because it costs them about like 200 euros for every operator to have this identification. It goes through your smartphone. So it's privacy restricted. The operator doesn't know who's logging in. So it's a good system, but it's expensive. So maybe in the future we might have something like this. There is a hospital in the United States that has this system. They have a lot of money. Okay, what are the obstacles to uptake the many solutions that we have? One is that medical devices that we are buying, many of the medical devices they're selling here in this beautiful place are, if you ask them what are the cybersecurity, they will probably say, I don't know. They're usually based on Windows 7, which is something that is impossible to cybersecure practically. But they're useful and we use them, but this is one of the problems. Also, when hospitals and emergency medical services buy things, they have strict directive on the prices. They are not going to consider the problem of cybersecurity usually. To consider a problem if something is cybersecure to enter into your system, you should take a piece, connect it to your system, make it through an emulation, go through an emulation environment, which is something that is some IT systems have it, and see if it's secure with your connections. Most hospitals or other entities do not have these emulation systems, so they don't have the system to check if it works. Also, the funding framework for European uptake is, there are no directives, there's nothing they're telling you. They say, okay, check, but it's nothing more specific than that. But I told you, if you go to the Digital Europe system, they will give you some funds, 50% of the funds of what you are investing. Those are, okay, so for business continuity instead, what am I going to do? You have to understand what you're doing. You understand your business. What is my business? Is treating the patient from A to B. Okay. The transferring the patient or not transferring, how to stock your emergency department, or business processes like these. You should identify what you are doing. Okay. Then you have to know the process that is underlining your business. Sometimes we don't know how we stock our departments, or we don't know how to transfer actually our patients. We go to the director of the ED, and he does the person that is directing that call time, and he does the transfer. You have to understand how these business processes are going, and then you have to control that you have some kind of redundancy. The redundancy mostly is returning to paper. I know that this is something that is very unpolitical to say, but it is important. And the paper usually is not there because the templates are not there anymore, and you have to stamp them again, and to stamp them you need a workstation. If the workstation is not not working. So this is a problem. Some hospitals have these solutions. Probably in France it's the same thing. Inside the closets, they have laptops that are connected to the system and do the backup once an hour. And for the rest of the time, they're disconnected. So if you get a major denial of service, at least you go into the closet, you take out the laptop, and you have what your system and the patients you have at least from 1 hour before. So what you have to fill in is the information of 1 hour. This is a simple system that works pretty well. Okay, so the business continuity demands that you're the ones that your hospital has to take care of it, but also you have to understand what your downtime procedures are. How long does it take me to go back to paper to ask for a chemical exam? How much does it take me to go back to paper to transfer my patient to the ICU? Also identifying him, because without digital, now we can't even identify patients. And also, they do not, to have some templates, some paperwork already done there, stored in a closet or something. That is a stupid suggestion, but it's the only way to overcome in emergency these kind of incidents. Responsibility. Okay, this is very important, because a responsibility as operator, the responsibility is not yours. It is from the direction of the hospital, the human resources. So it is very important that they let you have training, they give you manuals, and they give you the job description, which is exactly what you're supposed to do or not. What are the consequences for healthcare operators? A major cybersecurity breach or denial of service, the employer can say it's your fault only if he can demonstrate you want to do harm. So practically, this almost never happens. It happened in Italy for one person who was doing smart working from home. He left his computer opened, and there was someone that did harm through that. But this usually does not happen. So you will not be processed for this. But the problem is negligence. Negligence also has some legal consequences. So if somehow they demonstrate that you were negligent towards the insertion of the password, etc., you might have some legal consequence. Okay, so the conclusions. The first thing you have to think is that business continuity is patient health. Okay, we lived without cybersecurity 30 years ago. We can live without it now. Naturally, everything will be slowed down, and we'll go back to the medicine of probably, let's say, 40 years ago in hospitals. But so the continuity of this system is the continuity of patient care. Consequently, digitalization must be considered as an asset, but it's not the main thing we have to deal with. And the best thing to protect our system is somehow to have a plan B inside your head of what you're going to do if the system goes down. This is, at the moment, the best that can be offered in this sector. I thank you very much, and I hope to have entertained you at least.
Thank you, Professor Magalini. Now we have 5 minutes for some questions, in English or French, as you want. So I start. First question for Philippe Quevillier. We participate for Summer of Paris on the SFMC in some European project. I see a difficulty. We have different partners and of different level. In France, for example, we have a hospital physician in France with Red Cross of Spain, civil protection of Scandinavian country, firefighter of Italian, and so on. And it's already difficult to work in one country together. So we have different partners of different level in different countries. Is it relevant?
Well, I think when we speak about research, development of research and implementation, I think it's good to have different countries, different civil protection, emergency involved in the design of tools and technologies that will be tested by them in field conditions, because in this case we achieve interoperability and we arrive to a kind of harmonization of procedure. So I think when it happens like this, it's quite an ideal situation. But I agree with you that when we arrive with well-defined ideas that we try to put in different boxes, it might not work. But well, what can I respond to this? They're just things that we need to have a better harmonization in Europe.
Yes.
And without EU regulation, as Yannick mentioned, health is of sovereign character. So we don't have regulation in Europe. So it's very difficult to have this kind of harmonization. If you look at water policies, for example, there is this kind of harmonization because the water policy, water framework directive is implemented through national laws, and then we are working towards common type of procedures. But in health, it's very difficult.
Okay, thank you. Question? No. Oh, sorry. I have prepared some question for Yannick Morel. And just short question. The stocks are for Europe, but are they usable for internal French crisis or not? Are we?
Yes, well, yes. These rescue stockpiles are accessible to any member states and even to other countries member of the UCPM. So if the French government wants to use them, they have to ask DG ECO. If your question was, since these stockpiles are located in France, does France has a kind of priority right?
Yes.
The answer is no. It's funded 100% by the Commission. So although it's managed by me and stockpiled physically in France, it's accessible to 27 member states, and France has not a priority right.
Okay.
Of course, if there is a problem in France, the best is to use these stockpiles because they are nearby. But France could also ask for the stockpiles located in Finland or in Portugal. Or
okay, thank you. And third question for Professor Magalini. In France, we don't pay when there is a cyber attack to a hospital or clinic. In the US, they are used to pay. And what is the process in other countries in Europe? Most?
They don't say it. It's the same thing. It's a problem to say that you're paying, so it's not politically correct. But basically, it's very different between private structures and public structures. In the United States, they're paying so much because it's private health. It's their business continuity that's going down, and they're losing a lot of money. In Europe, basically, they are public institutions, and somehow the state is covering for it. So, but you're not going to get precise information. I don't have it.
Okay, thank you very much. So it's time. We have to finish this session. Thank you for the three presentations. And we go on the next session. On est tous les deux et plein d'écran télé, c'est ça?
Tu expliqueras en vision? Parce que moi, je...
Oui.
Donc, bonjour. Alors, hop. The SFMC objective was to understand the mechanisms of crowd movement and avian behavior to anticipate spontaneous or planned gathering and to intervene when they turn into accident of disaster.
Professor Vivien, Deputy Chief of the SAMU of Paris, will talk to us what to expect in terms of pathologies.
Thank you, Agnès. So, I am the first presenter, and Mathieu Langlois, who is blocked in the operating room, will be the presentation after by Visio. Okay, so pathology linked to crowd movement. No conflict of interest. So, the plan of this presentation: symptomatology, care principle, on prevention. First, there is every year there are many days during crowd movement. In fact, there is regularly some small crowd movement with some days, but we have sometimes large crowd movement with many days. For example, during pilgrims in Baghdad and in Lamech in 2005 and 2015. First pathology, the crush syndrome. In fact, the crush syndrome is due to prolonged compression, and this is not the pathology which is due to crowd movement. So we have no crush syndrome during crowd movement. The most relevant example in Europe is the Hillsborough Stadium crowd movement with about 100 days and 700 injured during the football Summit Cup. The major pathology was compression syndrome. During the match, we have a disaster with 100 deaths and cardiac arrest, coma, convulsion, all were due to compression asphyxia syndrome. Another problem is panic, but in fact, people don't die because they panic because they are dying. And one of the more recent examples was a panic in La Défense due to fall from a building for people, voluntary fall, and there is a large noise, and people were running, thinking of a terrorist attack. The main pathology during crowd movement are traumatic asphyxia. The definition: asphyxia is due to direct thoracic or thoraco-abdominal compression according to various mechanisms by an elevator door for children, for example, during a landslide, during the panic of a crowd. And you see, for example, a compression of the torso of soldiers. For a pathophysiological point of view, we have the Perthes syndrome. The Perthes syndrome is due to forced inspiration with closed glottis effort on blocked thorax. There is an hyperpressure, especially venous, in the upper territory with cyanosis, petechiae, and cervicofacial purpura and subconjunctival hemorrhage, as you can see on the pictures. We also have neurological manifestations which are linked to the sudden drop in cerebral blood flow and asphyxia secondary to the chest compression. There is a transient cortical blindness, impaired consciousness, a coma, severe cerebral anoxia, and irreversible brain damage. There are possible to see hypoxic cardiorespiratory arrest. We have first a loss of consciousness when saturation decreases, and after there is a cardiac arrest after 4 to 10 minutes of respiratory arrest. Also, we could see non-hypoxic cardiac arrest. They are due to hypovolemia, and in 1 or 2 minutes, due to decrease in venous return, we have an hypovolemic cardiac arrest. Other disease, we have thoracic lesion due to direct compression, pulmonary contusion, hemopneumothorax, and hemoptysis, rib fractures. Exceptionally, we could see cardiac or vascular disease, cardiogenic shock, and hemorrhagic shock due to large vessel injuries. Some other disease, some other lesions. On the abdominal compartment, we have hemoperitoneum, digestive hemorrhage, laceration, perforation of hollow organs, liver damage. We also have very various miscellaneous lesions, such as genital urinary lesions, hematuria, spinal cord injury, and hypoacusia due to eardrum perforations. Shocking. Shocking is another disease during cord movement. The pathophysiology is mechanical asphyxia caused by obstruction of the nose and mouth, or direct pressure on the neck. Face is blocked by bodies or clothes, and there is asphyxia. The facilitating factor has, as you can see on the picture, different level of people, adults and children, and also different level because of stare, of stands, and so on. It is also possible to observe some inhalation of stomach fluid. Vomiting could be impossible due to mechanical obstruction of the mouth because of people in front of the patient. We also could observe inhalation during disturbance of consciousness due to alcohol, drug, hypoxia, or during extraction. And at last, we could also observe passive regurgitation before or during cardiopulmonary resuscitation. The prognosis, inhalation is frequently at the origin of pneumonia, but pneumonia by itself, just only pneumonia, does not increase mortality. We can also observe positional asphyxia due to forced anterior cervical flexion or forced dorsoflexion on a barrier, as you can see in the picture. Also, it could be observed during the transport of an unconscious patient without release of the upper airway. The other various mechanisms of trauma, for example, head trauma, thoracic trauma with hemo and pneumothorax, right atrium rupture, rupture of intra-abdominal viscera, rupture of the aorta. Or we could also keep in mind that some fragile people could have decompensation of pre-existing disease, such as arrhythmia in ischemic heart disease or hypoxia for a patient with bronchopulmonary pathology. The pre-hospital care. You will be disabled, but there is no specific care for this patient. Very few data in the literature. This is non-specific. We have to apply the pre-hospital triage on the principle of disaster medicine. For cardiorespiratory arrest, if cardiorespiratory arrest is due to hypoxia, we have to privilege ventilation, but this is a bad prognosis. The main factor is prevention and anticipation with organization of the event on the emergency forecast system. To finish, I will give you some survival advice. First, you have to move away from the epicenter of the crowd. Secondly, you have to leave the densest area. You see on the picture, there is a risk increasing with the density of the people, and there is a major risk from 4 people for 1 square meter. You also have to move from wall, obstacle, and bottlenecks like a bridge. It was the mechanism of crowd movement with many days in Baghdad on a pilgrim movement on a bridge. As you can see, some obstacle here on the bridge. If you are compressed, you have to preserve your breathing. You have to save your oxygen, so don't shout. Also, you have to preserve your thoracic cage, and you have to take the position of a boxer to preserve your rib cage. As it's a good advice, you have to stay vertical. So avoid stairs and obstacles, and avoid backpacks, especially during stair movement. If you are in a crowd movement, don't resist. It's impossible to resist. The force could be up to 4,500 newtons. So you have to move with the crowd. Don't resist. And at last, you have to stay united with your neighbor, altruism, kindness, and help towards the weakness. It's a good recommendation if you can apply it during the movement. Finally, some take-home message. It's a war event, but we could observe many potential victims. There is a major potential by collective panic. We could have an asphyxia by chest and/or abdominal compression. The hypoxic cardiac arrest is the main mechanism, and we have to engage early cardiopulmonary resuscitation with ventilation and oxygen. The prevention group is based on the seat configuration analysis and the emergency forecast system, which should be organized before the event. And if you are in the crowd movement, you have to remember the cervical advice. Thank you for your attention.
Je vais devoir partir, donc alors ta question. Bizarre ça. Catherine, il est en ligne ou... Alors dans 2 minutes, le docteur Langlois va arriver. Donc, have you a question for the Professor Vivien? Non. Benoît? Donc, je vais y arriver. Le docteur Langlois va nous rejoindre en visio. Dr. Langlois is a former medical chief of the RED. Will talk to us how the security force get ready and intervene.
Est-ce qu'il y a encore des anglophones dans la salle? Bon, ben ça tombe bien. Merci Mathieu de te libérer. Et donc, tu peux faire ta présentation donc en français, pas de problème. Il faut que tu partages Il faut que tu partages ton écran.
Je viens de changer le diaporama pour te le faire en anglais. Donc,
Non, mais fais comme tu veux, Mathieu. On s'adapte depuis ce matin.
Non, mais alors le diaporama sera en anglais, mais je vais parler en français.
C'est parfait, parfait.
Parce que ça va m'éviter...
Partage, on n'est pas en grand, là. Mets en plein écran.
Là, c'est bien?
Parfait. Il n'y a que toi qui peux piloter. C'est parfait. À toi.
Voilà, donc l'idée, c'était de vous présenter rapidement comment les forces de sécurité intérieure prennent en compte et s'organisent face à un afflux de victimes, quel que soit le type de menace. Et c'est un peu tous les enseignements qu'on a fait. Alors, ça a commencé en 2012, puis avec toutes les vagues d'attentats, c'est des réflexions qui ont été menées à l'échelon évidemment mondial, mais surtout européen. Pour la France en particulier, pour les forces de sécurité, que ce soit la police ou la gendarmerie, cette réflexion, cette nécessité de s'organiser aussi pour prendre en compte un afflux de victimes, eh ben, elle s'est adaptée à un moins haut niveau d'intensité de menaces qui était le terrorisme et les tueries de masse, mais qui peut finalement se retrouver sur des mouvements de foule, des violences urbaines, et ça a été utilisé en particulier pour les récentes violences urbaines. Alors évidemment, moi j'ai en plus quitté l'institution, mais il y a évidemment beaucoup de notions qui sont confidentielles. Néanmoins, c'est vraiment les grands principes que je vais répéter là, pour essayer de montrer comment les forces de sécurité, quelles qu'elles soient, hein, police, gendarmerie, c'est exactement pareil, s'organisent et se coordonnent sur un rôle qui n'est pas le leur au départ, qui est de permettre une bonne prise en charge d'une situation sanitaire exceptionnelle ou d'une catastrophe avec de nombreuses victimes. Encore une fois, le rôle des policiers et des gendarmes, c'est la sécurité, la sécurisation des lieux et des intervenants, des victimes évidemment, mais aussi des intervenants. Et ce qu'on a tous ensemble compris depuis 2012 et qui a été vraiment mis en évidence sur les attentats de 2015, c'est que tant qu'on est dans un environnement avec des contraintes sécuritaires, et c'est valable aussi bien pour les mouvements, enfin pour le mouvement de foule, pour les violences urbaines et évidemment pour le terrorisme, c'est que priorité doit être donnée à la sécurité et priorité doit être donnée à la neutralisation, ou en tout cas à la mission de police, avant de pouvoir organiser une opération de secours. Et puis, deuxième point, c'est que il faut surtout travailler sur des flux d'extraction de la zone de danger qui va être probablement très longue à traiter, et donc d'organiser des flux de la zone de danger vers des zones sécurisées, alors qu'ont été ou pas anticipées. Évidemment, si je pense aux JO, ces zones-là auront, j'espère, je suis sûr, anticipées. Mais parfois, dans d'autres circonstances, elles ne le seront pas automatiques. En tout cas, elles n'auront pas été anticipées avant l'événement. Il faut travailler vraiment sur la fluidité et la coordination des flux, ne pas se mélanger les pinceaux, que les pompiers deviennent des policiers ou que les policiers deviennent des pompiers. Ça, c'est, à mon avis, un très mauvais moyen d'avoir un flux d'évacuation fluide. Et puis, ce qui compte, c'est le temps d'évacuation entre la blessure et l'arrivée au définitif, ce que les anglo-saxons appellent le definitive care, c'est-à-dire vraiment, c'est pas le lieu safe, c'est l'hôpital pour les blessés graves, et éventuellement pour des blessés plus légers, on peut imaginer des solutions, alors en plus sur des événements anticipés comme les JO, sur des PMA ou des choses du genre. Juste pour montrer, pour expliquer, et là c'est vraiment dédié aux forces de sécurité, leur rôle, il n'est pas il est évidemment pas de faire du soin, du secours et du soin, c'est pas leur mission première, mais ils vont y participer en réduisant la menace, en rendant un accès possible aux victimes, en faisant éventuellement ce qu'on appelle le basic life, mais vraiment des gestes de sauvetage. Et puis, tout ça va permettre de réduire le temps d'évacuation finale. Alors, dans la haute intensité, on avait beaucoup travaillé sur intégrer dans les forces de sécurité ce qu'on appelle des secours tactiques. Alors, ils sont, en fonction des pays, ils vont être plus ou moins d'un niveau élevé en termes de médicalisation, mais ce n'est pas tellement ça le problème, hein. L'idée, c'est d'avoir des solutions intégrées aux services de sécurité pour pouvoir anticiper et pour pouvoir justement améliorer l'organisation dans la zone, vous verrez là dans la zone rouge, et de la coordonner de façon plus efficace avec les différents services de secours. Évidemment, il faut s'adapter. Alors là, je reviens sur le haut du spectre, hein, c'est-à-dire le terrorisme et les tueries de masse. Là, c'est juste une slide pour montrer que, évidemment, on a étudié tout un tas de menaces possibles qui peuvent parfois même s'associer les unes aux autres. Ça va du plus fréquent en haut jusqu'au moins fréquent. Ce qui est important de comprendre, c'est que chaque scénario nous impose une réflexion et une organisation différente et qu'il ne faut surtout pas imaginer une solution qui ira pour tout. Si on prend le World Trade Center, l'organisation des secours n'ira pas du tout, correspondra pas au Bataclan ou à Mumbai ou au marathon de Boston. Chaque cas est différent. C'est un schéma qui montre un petit peu de façon très illustrée les différents types de scénarios. Est-ce qu'il y a un engagement et une envie de combattre? Est-ce qu'au contraire, il y a une envie de fuir? Et évidemment, la réponse sécuritaire sera peut-être pas la même et la réponse secours non plus. Et il faut que les services de secours puissent offrir différents types de solutions. Si je prends l'exemple du RAID, il y a évidemment sur World Trade Center, les médecins du RAID n'ont aucun intérêt, ce qui n'était pas le cas par exemple pour le 13 novembre. Ce qui est vraiment la clé, c'est d'avoir ensuite un circuit qui va de la zone la plus dure, la plus rouge, où on aura vraiment des équipes très spécialisées, avec ou pas des médecins ou des infirmiers ou des paramédics dans leurs équipes. Et puis ensuite des équipes d'un niveau intermédiaire qui ne rentreront pas dans la zone rouge par définition, mais qui seront dans une zone orange, ce que les anglo-saxons appellent les Rescue Task Force. C'est les corridors d'extraction et les groupes d'extraction qui ont été mis en place après 2016 par différents SDIS. Et puis, évidemment, après, dans la zone plus verte, ça, c'est les secours classiques. Ça, c'est un petit film. Alors, en anglais, je suis désolé, j'aurais pu le mettre en français, mais...
Reducing the adaptation of zoning, depending on the evolution of the threat, according to the tactical medical support of the RED. Coordination at the operational command post between the RED and rescue services allows that continuous adaptation. The zoning defines a police exclusion zone.
Désolé messieurs, dames, on vient de le perdre.
Je vous rassure, ce n'est pas un problème de bloc opératoire, c'est un problème de connexion. J'aime mieux ça. D'accord. Donc, je pense que c'est l'animation qui a fait que ça a coupé. Parce que de temps en temps, avec Zoom, je sais qu'on a de temps en temps des problèmes. Donc, je vous prie de bien vouloir nous excuser, mais on va aussi l'excuser pour qu'il retourne travailler. Parce qu'il paraît que les pistes sont très glacées et qu'il y a plein de traumatismes très importants. Donc, on va l'excuser. OK? Merci beaucoup de votre présence, de vos questions. Et puis, on vous donne rendez-vous dans d'autres salles, hein, parce que maintenant, on va switcher dans la salle 4 pour la partie ESEM. Ah, il me dit qu'il galère pour tout relancer.
Il y a encore quelqu'un ou pas?
Ah, oui? OK. Vas-y.
Il n'y a plus personne.
Mais non, ils sont tous restés, justement. J'ai essayé de les faire sortir, ils n'ont pas voulu.
Non, je vais accélérer par contre.
Oui, OK.
Must be close, but in a secure area, so at the limit with the controlled area. If the crisis evolves towards a low threat, the casualty extraction point can approach the wounded nest to shorten the extraction circuit and allow saving time for evacuation. But if the threat grows, it is critical to remove the CEP to ensure the safety of the conventional rescue team. The limit between the police exclusion zone and the control zone is impassable, but it absolutely needs to be mobile and adaptable to allow, for example, the creation of controlled extraction corridor under express decision of the commander of the Specialized Intervention Operations.
Alors, je vais vous le remettre dans une autre forme, mais vous allez voir en même temps, mais là, il n'y a pas de son. Ce qu'il faut bien comprendre, c'est que le respect, quel que soit le type de menace, le respect entre les saisonnages qui va être dynamique va permettre justement de gagner du temps dans les évacuations, mais sans tricher sur des règles de sécurité et d'engagement. C'est-à-dire que il faut vraiment comprendre que dans la zone rouge, alors sur le terrorisme, tout le monde l'a à peu près compris, mais c'est aussi valable sur par exemple sur des violences urbaines, sur des gros mouvements de foule. La zone rouge, ce n'est pas pour priver les secouristes d'intervenir, c'est uniquement pour que tout le monde puisse travailler dans des conditions de sécurité qui vont ensuite permettre d'avoir une mission efficace. Et donc là, cette animation en 3D, elle reprend un zonage dynamique, elle reprend le triage, et évidemment, on imagine bien que tout ça ne peut pas se faire sans coordination. Et c'est en mettant en place tous ces trois outils qu'on arrivera à avoir une chaîne fluide, quel que soit le type de menace et quel que soit le nombre et la gravité des victimes. Je vais passer les films parce que vous avez compris le principe. Je vous ai dit, il repose sur trois outils. La coordination, ça c'est un exemple, mais il y a évidemment, il n'y a aucune règle. Chaque force a ses outils, mais ce qui est vraiment maintenant admis, c'est que tant qu'on est dans une zone où on considère que la menace prime sur le secours, eh ben c'est le commandement est donné au COPG, c'est-à-dire au commandant des opérations de police et de gendarmerie, qui peut déléguer, par exemple, dans des cas d'attentat au COIS, qui est le commandant du RAID ou du GN ou de la BRIPP. Mais ça, c'est vraiment spécifique à l'organisation des forces d'intervention. Mais il faut vraiment comprendre que cette coordination, elle est menée par les forces de police et de gendarmerie, et que tant que la menace est là, le COS et les secours sont concurrents. Des exemples, mais peu importe. Le deuxième outil, c'est du triage. Il en existe plein. Je vous fais juste, là, je vous montre ce qu'on avait en 2012, ultra simplifié comme triage pour les tueries de masse. Et là, encore une fois, c'est uniquement un triage pour dans la zone rouge. avoir une clairance ultra rapide de l'évacuation des victimes vers le PEV, le PRV, et puis évidemment les secours et l'hôpital. Et on avait simplifié à l'extrême, c'est-à-dire que la première chose, et on était les premiers à avoir développé ça, c'est-à-dire que la première chose qui nous intéressait, on s'en foutait un peu de la gravité des blessures. Ce qui nous intéresse, c'est est-ce que vous pouvez sortir vite, c'est-à-dire est-ce que vous êtes valide ou pas. Valide ne veut pas dire pas blessé, hein. Même si vous rampez, vous êtes considéré comme valide. Et donc là, c'est vous qui sortez en premier. Et après, le triage tactique, il est plus simple pour trier les P1, P2 et malheureusement les P0. Alors depuis, tout le monde a repris les Anglais là, ont publié pas mal de trucs. Nous, sur ce triage-là, on avait fait des études qu'on va bientôt publier où on montrait qu'on gagnait 30% pour une clearance globale de la zone rouge. Hein, encore une fois, il est vraiment fait uniquement pour évacuer au plus vite la zone rouge en considérant que la menace n'est toujours pas traitée. Et puis, le troisième outil, c'est le zonage dynamique. Donc, je vais conclure assez vite. Tout ça pour vous montrer que finalement, d'organiser des secours de masse alors que la menace n'est pas traitée, c'est loin d'être facile. C'est bien d'avoir des outils, c'est bien de s'entraîner, s'exercer tous ensemble, mais moi, j'ai aucune certitude et ce sera toujours très complexe. Il faut de l'organisation, il faut des process agiles et puis il faut de l'humain. Ça dépendra aussi des bonnes personnes. Ça va dépendre beaucoup de la coordination entre police et secours. Donc la police en charge en particulier la zone d'exclusion et puis les secours qui seront à partir de la zone orange jusqu'à la zone jusqu'à l'hôpital évidemment. Selon moi, mais selon toutes les études aussi, c'est-à-dire que la situation entre le temps de la blessure et l'arrivée au bloc opératoire pour les plus graves. Sans oublier, ça c'est les enseignements qu'on a fait de 2015, en particulier du Bataclan, mais si on regarde aussi ce qui s'est fait, moi j'ai beaucoup partagé avec des collègues européens sur toutes les situations on va dire, de tuerie de masse, même si elles ne correspondent pas toutes à la même définition. L'aspect psychologique de la foule, et évidemment des victimes, est souvent, c'est plus facile pour les victimes graves parce que leur prise en charge, elle est assez simple. Mais pour tout l'environnement autour et toutes les foules qui sont autour, là, par contre, c'est loin d'être facile. Et c'est une vraie problématique pour l'ensemble des intervenants, qu'ils soient du côté police ou du côté secours. Et je pense que parfois, on n'en est peut-être pas assez conscient. En vue des JO, je pense que c'est un détail qu'il ne faut surtout pas omettre. Voilà, j'ai fini et je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Mathieu. Et puis... il
n'y a que toi dans la salle, rassure-moi.
Non, ils sont tous là, ils t'applaudissent, et ils sont tous restés, alors que je venais de leur dire que tu allais partir. Et tu entends les remerciements. De temps en temps, il vaut mieux être à l'extérieur, hein, parce que nous, on n'en a pas eu autant. Hein. Non, je plaisante. Ok, merci beaucoup, Mathieu. Travaille bien.
Merci à vous.
Alors, merci beaucoup à vous. Bon appétit, et puis on se retrouve dans d'autres salles, j'imagine.